I can tell everyone's ready, but here we go. It's 6:05. We are in session. This is the regular board meeting, November 9th, 2017. We are the Poway Unified School Board. Welcome, everybody. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And before we start our meeting officially, our community suffered a really heartbreaking loss of two of our Poway Unified students, Isabella and Christos Lopez. They were students at Sunset Hills Elementary School, and I want to share a few words of remembrance that their teachers submitted. From Isabella's second grade teacher, Wendy Hallisey, she says, Isabella was a kind and gentle soul. She is remembered by her classmates and teachers at Sunset Hills as a loyal friend, diligent scholar, and devoted sister to her big brother, Christos. Isabella loved pretty things, from the pink, sparkly cat ears headband she wore every day to the Barbie dream house she built for our cardboard box challenge. Her dream was to graduate from Mount Carmel High School, go on to college, and become a doctor for babies. From Christos' fifth grade teacher, Paul Cook. Christos was a good-hearted and well-rounded boy. He will always be remembered as being genuine, caring, kind, and having a strong competitive spirit. He had a passion for playing sports, such as basketball, and going to the skate park. Everyone liked Christos. He was one of those kids who got along with everyone. He had a smile that would light up a room and a heart made out of gold. Please join me for a moment of silence for these two young lives lost. We would also like to remember another Poway Unified student. Maddie Taylor attended Poway High School, in Poway Unified. She passed away after an illness, and her principal, Ron Garrett, in the back. Would you prefer to read these words, Ron? No, go ahead. Okay. He shared these words. Maddie fought with heart and with spirit, exhibiting a strength and resilience that inspired us all. May the memory of her life and spirit serve to remind us of how precious our time on earth is and how much we need to slow life down and just love those around us. So please join me in a moment of silence for Maddie. Thank you, everyone. I know that's a difficult way to begin the meeting, but let's get into it. 3.1 is our report out of closed session. Clerk Patel.
Good evening. Closed session began at 4:07 p.m. The Board of Education took action on the following closed session items. 2.1a. On a motion by Beatty and a second by Zane, and by a roll call vote, the Board voted unanimously to approve the compromise settlement of case number 37-2015-00003285-CU-MC-CTL and authorize the superintendent to execute the necessary agreements. 2.1-B1. In the matter of pending existing litigation, case number 2017-060491, on a motion by Zane and a second by Sellers, the board voted to ratify the settlement agreement. The vote of the board was as follows: unanimous. And I apologize, on 2.1a, the vote was unanimous. Sorry. 2.1-B-2. In the matter of pending existing litigation, case number SA2, on a motion by Beatty and a second by Sellers, the board voted to ratify the settlement agreement. The vote of the board was as follows: unanimous. 2.1c, nothing to report. 2.2-A, in the matter of anticipated litigation, case number 37-2017-21296-CU-PO-NC, on a motion by Beatty and a second by Sellers, the board voted to authorize initiation of litigation. The vote of the board was as follows: ayes unanimous. And on all other items in closed session, there's nothing to report. Closed session adjourned at 5:50 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. To 3.2, this is our members in attendance. I'd like to note that every single one of us is here, present and accounted for. Thanks. 3.3 is our welcome to the public, and for this we go to our student board member, Ms. Myra.
Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Board of Education. If you would like to address the board on any agenda item, please complete a speaker slip. All requests to speak must be submitted to the clerk of the board before the agenda item comes up. If you are requesting an agenda item be pulled for discussion from Section 5.0, Consent Calendar, a speaker slip must be submitted to the clerk now, as approval of the consent calendar is one of the first items up for approval. Item 4.2 is placed on our agenda to enable members of our community to bring items that are not placed anywhere else on the agenda to the board's attention. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, with a maximum of 15 minutes per topic unless waived by the board president. There will be a 30-second yellow light warning light when time is out. Speakers may only speak on one topic under item 4.2 and may not defer their speaking time to another individual. If there are concerns regarding specific individuals, it is preferred that the speaker refrain from naming them publicly to respect their privacy. The board will accept and review any written materials that would provide more specific information. The Brown Act does not permit board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, but your concerns will be referred to staff. With that said, welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you. That takes us to 3.4. This is the approval of our agenda sequence.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. At this time, we would like to move items 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4 to be heard after item 4.6 on the agenda, and ask that the board members to approve the agenda sequence with these changes.
Motion to approve.
On a motion by Mr. Zane, second by Mr. Sellers. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. This takes us to 4.1, our student board representatives, and we have 3 here this evening. Let's start in the middle with Del Norte High School and Jordan Dixon. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, board members. My name is Jordan Dixon. I'm one of the executives from Del Norte High School's ASB. It's an honor to report to you tonight about all the events of the Nest as we grow to become more college-ready, future-focused, and more globally aware. College-ready. Different college representatives have been visiting our students every day since September to provide our students with more insight on the variety of options they have once they graduate from our Nest. Our seniors have been working hard on their college applications, getting all the help they need from our amazing counseling team. 7 of our Scholar Athlete seniors signed their letters of intent yesterday, committing to play their sports at some incredible schools such as Stanford and Brown. All the Nighthawks are studying hard and preparing for finals coming up next week. Future focused. The Nest is constantly growing to be bigger and better than ever. We are having new classrooms built at the back of our school so we can fit more classes and activities. Our talented teaching staff is dedicated as always to helping us learn. Our very own Teacher of the Year, Mr. Landsberger, was widely recognized for his amazing teaching abilities as San Diego County Teacher of the Year. Our clubs are focusing on the future of the students and the future of our school. To name a few, DECA, a business financing and marketing club, attended a career development conference to learn about more possible jobs. Our cybersecurity placed first in nationals. Our Peer Leaders Club went on a retreat and held freshman bonding activities in order to bond our students, and several ASB students attended a No Place for Hate conference to learn about how we can make our campus a safer environment. Globally aware. ASB just held its Red Ribbon Week. We held an art contest asking students to show us their natural highs, watched our speech and debate club debate over lowering the drinking age to showcase the pros and cons of drinking, and covered the school with red to encourage students to remain drug-free. We also held a food drive where we collected over 1,000 food items which we donated to a local food bank. Members of the ASB were also interviewed by the news about the positive and negative effects of technology on teens. We also have a lot of other successful events that have happened here too. Our sporting teams are wrapping up their successful seasons and moving into CIFs. We have had tons of entertaining shows put on for us by our students. Our improv team put on a hilarious show, our band and orchestra blew us away with their concert, and our choir left us in awe of their talent at their concert last night. And our drama club department put together an amazing production of a spin-off of The Breakfast Club called Barely the Breakfast Club. ASB's homecoming was a complete success. We had an amazing parade, homecoming halftime show, and a dance showcasing our theme of Around the World. There were over 1,300 students at the dance, which we set a new record. We also decided to stray away from the tradition of homecoming court this year and recognize students based on character and hard work instead of popularity. The student body voted for who they felt best represented their class, and these Nighthawks were recognized as faces of the flock. ASB also held 2 pep rallies, one in September and one on Halloween. Some of our features included a percussion battle between band members and a teacher Halloween fashion costume show. Our students loved it, and we are working hard to create other events which will better our school and all of our Nighthawks experiences. Thank you and have a great night.
Thanks very much. From Abraxas, Alexito, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you for allowing me to present to the board. We have 2 programs at Abraxas High School, the Diploma Program and the Transition Program. I am a student in the Transition Program. The Transition Program is for young adults 18 to 22 who learn important life skills at Abraxas and in the community. The students in the program are all working at various job sites learning skills so that we will be ready for jobs when we leave Abraxas. We are working at places like Lake Poway, Home Goods, Home Greens, Walgreens, Meadowbrook, Salvation Army, and Armstrong Gardens. Many of the students and staff participated in the Jack Up Smash event on October 29th. We have an information booth, and students from the Diploma Program helped the Transition Pro students and staff with the event. The Transition Program was chosen as one of the programs that will receive donations from the Jack Up Smash fundraiser. The Diploma Program is for students who chose a non-traditional style of learning for the other 5 high schools in town. The leadership class hosts their second blood drive of the year today. On December 6th, our guitar and ukulele class will partner with our leadership class to give a holiday concert and cooking exchange at Brookview Senior Apartments. Students from both and the Diploma and Transition Program participated in the Abraxas Garden Project. We have donated more than 2,500 pounds of food to friends and family community connections, which then goes to needy families in the community. The garden will be expanding with the addition of a small orchard. The Rancho Bernardo Rotisserie has donated 14 fruit trees to the garden project, which will be planted during the dedication ceremony on November 16th. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, and from Mount Carmel High School, Aliyah Gardia. Welcome.
Hello everyone, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, and here's our Sun Devil Way report on the student experience. This October, Mount Carmel hosted a marvelous homecoming. In alignment with the Sun Devil Way, this year's dance featured dance pods, an ice cream bar, and a movie theater to include as many students as possible. In an attempt to make our homecoming all-inclusive, ASB voted to keep ticket prices down for the last week, which resulted in our highest attendance at a homecoming dance in the last 10 years. Many of our fall sports are finishing up their seasons with Senior Night, a night designed to honor student athletes, their families, and everybody that they love for their dedication and hard work demonstrated during their 4 years. Our performing arts groups have been hard at work. Recently, Mount Carmel hosted our annual band tournament with over 40 bands coming to participate. Theater at the Mount kicked off its season with the fall play, The Importance of Being Earnest. Freshmen and Link Crew seniors participated in Freshman Retreat in early October, a day of bonding and activities hosted by Keith Hawkins. 2017 marks the 13th year Keith Hawkins has spoken at Mount Carmel. This year's freshman retreat was a success in leaving our freshmen with a sense of community and better understanding why it's great to be a Sun Devil. Thank you.
Thank you to all our three students here, and if you'd like to stay, you're welcome to, and if you'd like to go, you're welcome to do that at this time as well. Thanks so much for being here. This takes us to 4.2, our public comments. At this time, I will turn this over to Clerk Patel.
Yes, we do have a couple under public comments. First one is Blanca Fisher.
Hello, my name is Blanca Fisher, and I'm here to represent PowayUSD Adopt a Family program. This program has been around for about 20 years, and I've been involved for at least 6 of the 20 years. It's gone through a lot of changes. These last 4 years, myself, Brenda Suchek, and Susan Cather are running the program. We service about 500 families, average that about a year, and we get donations from donors, donations from schools, teachers, counselors, give out the slips to needy families. They fill it out. We take that slip, put it in a format to give to donors. We never turn anyone down, and we service all the schools, and it's up to them to decide to use the program or not. And PTAs also help adopt families from other schools, which is really nice. What Adopt a Family does is they collect and distribute the donations that are given to the families. 100% of all donations go to the family. Some of these families, they want like blankets and jackets, and so they're down to like the basics. We usually get our donors from a mailing list or the chieftain and word of mouth. This year, we lost our largest donor, which usually gives us about 30 to 40 families to adopt. Last year, we lost our largest donor in the church community, which gave us about 25 families. We have about 140 families that are not adopted this year, and at this time, usually we're way under 100. I'm here to let you know that this program exists and we could use some help. In particular, teenagers, families with teenagers have a hard time being adopted, and most of the families that we have right now have teenagers. So we could use help adopting families, and also to the audience, if you guys want to help out, that would be great. And because parents, I mean, some families say, oh, we just want little kids, and they're very specific. So I'd like to thank you for your time to allow me to share with you about this program. And typically a family is about $75 per kid. So a family of 4, that might be too much for some people, but we're more than happy to accept gift cards. So please, if adopting a family is too much, gift cards will also go a long way. Thank you for your time.
Ma'am, I have one question for you. On your flyer, you indicate to adopt a family, you can purchase gifts from a PowayUSD family wish list.
Yes.
Is there a website where that wish list can be found?
No, we hold on to the wish list, and then when you call us and you tell us if you have criteria of what you want to adopt as far as the family goes, we will give you a summary sheet of how many kids, their age, their sizes for clothing. Gotcha. And usually every family, we also, besides, kids 19 and under is what we adopt. And we usually give a present to the family. Sometimes they need a toaster, a coffee maker, and we make sure that each family gets a gas card, a grocery card, and like a Walmart card to help the family.
So call or email, and then you'll match the donor up with the amount that they're able to
call
contribute.
them, tell them you want to adopt a family of 2 or 3 or
Gotcha.
6. We got a variation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add quickly, too, my kids' school adopts the families every year through the PTA, and Palomar Council helps connect them. But 140 families not adopted this year is heartbreaking. I know I'm going to push our PTA at my kids' school to adopt at least one more family. I think we can do that. I hope other schools will do the same when they hear that.
My
I think we
softball
can
team,
do more.
Yeah, my softball team is adopting one. So, through social media or your clubs or whatever, pass the word around. It's so much fun to see the looks on these families when they get these gifts. So, thank you.
The second and last speaker under public comment is Julie Hansen.
Thank you. Are we talking about item C or the map? I'm not sure because I put in two.
This is just public comment. This is not to do with the maps at this time.
Okay, so should I comment on C, which is the other thing I was going to talk about?
C, yes.
C! Okay, so C, for those that don't know, this is about the late school start, I believe. Is that true? We're all on the same page, right? No.
We don't have any information about whatever you want to talk about. We have nothing up here on that.
Shall I just say what's on my mind? Thank you. I will just say what's on my mind, and that is that I believe that there is a big legislation out there nationally to consider the later start times for school, and I'm a mother of two, and I would like to argue that the Poway Unified School District not lag in their consideration of this, but rather be proactive. There's a ton of research. I could go on for a lot more than 15 minutes about this, about the sleep deprivation of teenagers and how that affects their learning habits. And if we're going to have leaders come out of the Poway Unified School District, we need rested leaders, and we need them to be able to learn. And I can tell you that waking up at 5 to 5:30 in the morning for a teenager is unacceptable. So I'd like to see Poway Unified School District really take the lead on this. I know other schools have already started to do this, and I would like us to just be proactive. So that's it. Thanks.
And that concludes our public comment. Okay, this takes us to 4.3, our Everyday Heroes Classified Employee Recognition Program. For this, I'll go to Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President. This evening at this time, it is my pleasure to present our Team POSD and Everyday Heroes Awards. As the superintendent and our board president go in front of the dais, I'd also like to invite Personnel Commissioner Little and any of our other personnel commissioners in attendance, the director of the Personnel Commission, Ms. Corey Amador, and PSCA President Courtney Davis Martin up to the front of the room. We'll begin with Everyday Heroes. If I call your name, please come up along with your supervisor if they are present to be recognized and receive your certificate this evening. Everyday Heroes honors classified employees who demonstrate excellence in work performance, school and community involvement, and leadership and commitment to our district and our students. Our first recipient is Ms. Michelle Cass, Administrative Assistant 2 in New Directions Program. Michelle brings an extra measure of compassion and care to alternative programs, whether the students are at New Directions, Poway Home Education Program, homeless, or hospitalized. Last spring, she thoughtfully organized a drive to collect hygiene products for our homeless students. Congratulations, Michelle. Next, I'd like to invite Aaron Davis, lead custodian at Midland Elementary School. I don't know if Aaron is here this evening, but let's recognize Aaron wears many hats at Midland for equipment fixture, furniture mover, shoe tier, bongo player, and Batman. He is a beloved trademark of Midland Elementary, and his words of wisdom, positive energy, and attitude are an asset. Congratulations to Mr. Aaron Davis. Miss Beth Engstrom, School Administrative Assistant, Elementary, Painted Rock Elementary School. Since her first day in her role, Beth has made an astounding positive impact, helping to initiate new protocols which increase clear, consistent communication with all staff, as well as with parents and students. She also serves as a safe haven for children that have behavioral difficulties. Congratulations, Beth.
Good job, you guys. How about that rock?
Sherry Gracie, ESS Supervisor, Sunset Hills Elementary. Sherry embodies what it means to be a leader, not a boss. She has the innate ability to find the best in people. She is the first in the door and the last to leave. And she inspires her students and staff to achieve their very personal best. Congratulations, Sherry. Angela Kieran, Office Specialist, Preschool Department. Unfortunately, Angela's not here, but she's recognized for single-handedly working with 3 other departments to create an online registration reservation system for parents who are interested in registering their children for a PUSD preschool class. Congratulations to Angela. Ms. Myra Prather, ESS Supervisor. Myra makes herself available to anyone that needs assistance and is the epitome of servant leadership. She has created many new tools and ideas for after-school staff to use, as well as becoming a CalSAC trainer to educate employees. Congratulations, Myra. And now on to the Team PUSD Awards. Team PUSD is designed to recognize an admirable team of employees who together accomplish an exceptional task or project. The recognition is for a group of 2 or more classified and/or certificated individuals who have made a significant contribution. Phil Medved, from the Vehicle Maintenance Supervisor, and Christopher Contino, Assistant Mechanic for Transportation. When PUSD started a new system to repair custodial equipment, Phil and Chris volunteered to take on the additional task of picking up broken equipment, making the needed repairs, and returning it to the school sites. The process has expedited repairs, increased efficiency, and created a cost savings to the district. Congratulations to both Phil and Christopher. And I would like to call up Mr. Aaron Davis. Please come forward and be recognized. Congratulations, Aaron, for your outstanding work and contributions. This next group is several team members who have come together to do some outstanding work. So as I call your name, please come forward. Kimberly Carroll, High School Registrar, Westview. Teresa Small, Attendance Accounting Assistant. Nancy Schiffer, School Administrative Assistant. Nancy Brundrett, Instructional Assistant 2. Bonnie Laparo, Instructional Assistant 2. Robbie Boyd, Health Services Technician. Heather Bernard, Health Services Technician. Monique Cordeau, School Administrative Assistant. Shelley Fleming, Library Media Technician. Janet Cruz, Department Operations Technician. And Chris Rollins, School Administrative Assistant. These outstanding classified employees were selected by the PSEA and These outstanding classified employees were selected by the PSEA and PowayUSD Professional Learning Advisory Board to pilot the Professional Partner Program, a mentoring program provided to PSEA classified employees. They supported over 180 new probationary and experienced employees through coaching and leadership skills. Congratulations to this group. And now I'd like to invite for our next group, PFT President Kelly Logan, if she's here, or Chris Hazal. You're welcome to come forward for a photo as we recognize the following certificated teachers. As I call your name, please come forward. Hilary Cuevas Balanan, Atosa, and Learning Support Services. Stephanie Martin, TOSA, Learning Support Services. Kristen Thomas, TOSA, Learning Support Services. And Vicki Carroll, TOSA, Learning Support Services. This team of teachers has worked with every elementary school site to support PowayUSD's vision of literacy for all students, as well as data support with the RTI console. They spent hours revising the PowayUSD Literacy Guide to provide all TK through 5th grade teachers a common understanding of literacy. Congratulations to our recipients. Congratulations once again to our everyday heroes and Team PowayUSD recipients this evening.
That takes us to item 4.5. This is our public hearing to establish trustee areas and elections by trustee areas. So I have a little script here. Back on August 10th, 2017, the board took action initiating the process of establishing 5 trustee areas within the district and changing the method of electing members of the board. Under the planned system, the voters in each of the 5 trustee areas will elect the board member from their own trustee area. This action of the board was to ensure full compliance with the California Voting Rights Act of 2001, also known as the CVRA, and was in response to a threat of litigation against the district alleging noncompliance with the CVRA. This is the time and place designated for the final public hearing for members of the public to have the opportunity to provide input regarding the content of the draft maps and the proposed sequence of elections. The proposed draft maps are available at the district office and on the district website, www.PowayUSD.com. After this public hearing, later in the meeting, the board will consider a resolution to approve one of these maps and initiate the county-level process of approving the map and changing the method of electing members of the board. I'm going to send this back to our superintendent, back to Dr. Phelps, and ask that someone close the door to the lobby, please. A lot of celebration out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to actually reintroduce and invite Dr. Doug Johnson from National Demographics Corporation to the speakers table. He'll do a short PowerPoint presentation to review the draft proposed maps that we've received thus far and describe a little bit about the process as we move forward.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be back with you. I'm afraid this topic is not as much fun as the last one was, but hopefully we'll go through this effectively. So as was mentioned, I have a brief presentation. I'll keep it very high level, and then I'm happy to come back and look at details of maps or anything like that later on in response to public questions or board requests. First of all, as was just mentioned, this has been a fast but intense process with lots of hearings and opportunities for public input and opportunities for the public to draw the lines. And I certainly would say that the public has responded. We've gotten lots of emails, we've gotten lots of maps, and today the hope is that today will be the day when a map is picked. And as was mentioned before, and as people will notice as we go through this process, unusual for this issue is that the board's selection of a map is not the final step. There then is the county committee hearing coming after this as well. And it's worth noting that the lines will only be used for 2 elections, in 2018 and 2020. Then they'll be redrawn in 2021 based on the 2020 census data. What that means is that each trustee area in the map will hold 1 election. The trustee areas will be assigned either 2018 or 2020 and will hold that election before they get revisited. As you may remember, or may have tried to forget, October 12th, we went through a lot of maps. We had 14 maps before us at that point, and the board narrowed it down to 2 focus maps, not a final decision, but 2 maps to hopefully focus the decision, maps 109 and 112. And then, since then, we had continued opportunity for the public to submit revisions to those maps or new maps if they wanted to, and we have gotten a lot of maps, more than I think we've ever received after the first round in any of the projects we've done. So we have 17 maps in addition to those 2 focus maps to consider tonight. They've all been posted for over a week on the website, and we have been getting quite a bit of public comment. As of this morning, 148 emails had come in just to the PowayUSD address, and you may have gotten letters and other comments as well directly to the district. So people have definitely engaged and spent the time, and it does take quite a bit of time to look at these maps and figure out what they think about each one. So kudos to the members of the public that have spent the time to share their thoughts on this. As a brief reminder, this is the same slide we went over at the earlier hearings. There are really 2 sets of guidelines for drawing lines. The first is the requirements. You have to comply with the federal laws. So the trustee areas have to have essentially equal population each one, within a couple of % each way. We also have to make sure that the lines comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act and that they don't divide up any what we call protected classes, protected class populations' ability to influence elections. But there can also not be racial gerrymandering, so race can't be the predominant factor. And all the maps before you today, the 2 focus maps and the new maps all seem to comply with all of those criteria. Where the decisions come down, really for the board and the public, is the traditional criteria. These are the goals. They're not requirements, but they are the usual goals that we look to meet in a plan. And really the question is which plan best balances the attempt to meet these goals. So communities of interest, trying to keep lines compact and contiguous and follow visible features. Where possible, try to leave re-election decisions up to the voters by not pairing people. And then, as I mentioned before, planned future growth is often one of those criteria, but because we'll be redrawing these lines in just a couple years, that's not really a factor in this case. A couple of questions I did want to address that had come up in the public questions. First of all, some people have been asking about the requirements that they cite from the California Constitution and statutes. And it is worth noting, as I was just mentioning, federal law and the education code govern how school boards draw their lines. There is other language in the California Constitution that defines compactness and talks about ignoring where incumbents live. But those sections are particular to the California Independent Redistricting Commission, which is in charge of partisan line drawing. So it draws the lines for all of California's partisan offices that have districts, so the Assembly, the State Senate, the Board of Equalization, and for Congress. So those rules for partisan districting don't apply to school board and city council and county supervisor districting. Those are the discussions that they talk about in those rules are in the traditional criteria and the goals, but those are not requirements, and you're not banned from considering things that that commission is banned from considering. There's also been references to illegal gerrymanders. This comes up a lot. The only legal definition at this point of a gerrymander is a racial gerrymander, which is defined in federal law under the Federal Voting Rights Act. People are probably aware as well that there is a case currently in front of the U.S. Supreme Court that would define a partisan gerrymander, but it's what they're looking at is clearly Democrat versus Republican and vice versa gerrymandering among partisan parties. And that definition has not yet been adopted. Gerrymandering really comes down to it's any map that the speaker doesn't like. So what we do encourage the public to talk about is not to just say this map is bad, it's a gerrymander. Say why they think the map is bad. Is it dividing up a community? Is it non-compact? The term gerrymander by itself doesn't really mean anything other than the fact that the speaker doesn't like the map when it comes to evaluating a map or a possible legal challenge. And then we actually had one very thoughtful question email that raised some good questions about alternative voting systems, ranked choice voting, cumulative voting, things like that. You may have heard of these because a couple of cities in the Bay Area use them. Those are charter cities, and all of those alternative election systems are not allowed under state law for general law school districts like Poway. So they are experimental in some charters, but not options here. The only safe harbor from a California Voting Rights Act lawsuit is Biary Elections. Otherwise, you're vulnerable to a lawsuit. So I do want to address those things since they have come up in the public questions to us. So jumping into the maps, first the two focus maps selected last time provide a pretty good example of the two different approaches to maps. 109, you can see very compact lines. One of the key features that when I look at these maps I see differentiates a lot is where trustee area C ends up. In 109, it's at the north part of the district. And the reason I see that as key is then everything else kind of falls into place around that. That drives where A goes, B goes, D and E go. So as you see that shift around, that really is a defining factor of different maps. So 109 is very compact. To the degree possible, and it's never perfectly possible, it does focus trustee areas community by community, and really each community to the degree possible would have someone that they unite their votes behind and vote for. 112 is kind of the other approach to drawing lines, and while it sometimes looks funny, and that definitely doesn't look as clean and compact as the others, it does illustrate something that a lot of school districts do, and school districts do it more often than any other type of jurisdiction, which is attempt to blend attendance zones and communities across trustee areas so that no trustee feels like this is my school or this is my attendance zone. Really, every attendance zone would have multiple trustees that would come and campaign there on election day and would come and have their candidate forums in front of that teacher or parent-teacher association. So even though it looks a little funny, when we adopt those maps, they often look funny for a reason. And these are good examples of the two different approaches to communities and either basing a district in a community entirely or trying to have multiple trustees represent each trustee area. One of the good examples, I used to talk about this a lot more in theory, if you followed San Diego Unified's troubles last year with a board member eventually having to resign because she was getting too involved in individual school decisions, that is what school districts that go for something like 112 are fearing, of a school board member who starts bypassing the superintendent and giving orders to principals because this is my school. So it looks better, but it can, if in the wrong hands, lead to problems. So those are the two focus maps, and they were chosen to illustrate both kind of extremes of line drawing. Not a lot of good ways to separate out the new maps, so I can put them into just really 4 groups. Group 1 is 121 through 126, group maps that came in together. You can see the variations, and really this is a good illustration of as C shifts, you can see how the others are driven to shift around it. So in 121, we're kind of like in 109. C's at the top. You get a and D on the west side of the freeway, B and E on the east side of the freeway. 122, C shifts down as much more of a central trustee area, and that brings A and B around the top and meeting again at the freeway. See, where's it? And then at the other end of the spectrum is 126, where C has come all the way down to the south edge. And one thing that does is it really forces D to come up the west side. And so you get D picking up the far west edge of the school district. A is, most of the population in A is in 126 is actually in the same places as 122 and 123. But it does look quite different, and you get multiple board members in the Northwest, but this time in A and D. Again, I can come back, and as we hopefully focus the discussion both from public comment and from board direction, we can spend a lot more time on the details of each map before you select one if you'd like. The second group is much more kind of vertical trustee areas. You can see them going vertically to pick up so that each trustee area covers many more of the different school attendance areas and many more of the communities. Again, getting more of that 112 approach to lines. They're not that different from each other, but obviously when we get into the details of exactly where the different lines go, we can zoom in and look at the shifts among them. But 3 very similar maps in the general approach. Group 3 has 7 different maps, showing a lot of variation in what are overall in the big picture fairly similar maps. You can see C is down at the southern end in 6 of these, but can be in very different places in the southern end with very different impacts and different perspectives coming out of that. 116 is more of a keeping C in the central, but interestingly it shifts C to the west, so it's really the central west part of the school district which moves A up to be an all northern district, where 116 is I think unique in taking that approach to trustee area A. Then the last one, group 4, this one came in by itself. It's like some of the ones that were in the earlier batch that you discussed before October, but you get a fairly compact map. You get interesting. This is one of the few that keeps C entirely east of the freeway, which gives a very different division up north while still keeping 3 trustee areas up north. So again, I can come back in much more detail on all those. In terms of the public hearing, tonight we're looking for which maps the public recommends you adopt. As was discussed a bit last time, any changes to a map have to be posted for 7 days before the board can take action on them. So we're not looking to change any maps tonight unless the board wishes to see changes and come back for future hearing. Really tonight the focus is on choosing which of these many maps the public wishes you to adopt. So happy to answer any questions now or after the public hearing. I also do have the attendance maps here in case people want to look at those or you want to look at those as we go on. And then I will put this map up so that people can refer to whichever map they want. We have a lot of maps. So.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I think we need to do our public hearing before we go to board questions. So if you'll be available for board questions after we do our public hearing, that would be great.
Definitely.
Okay, good. So at this time, public speakers are allotted 3 minutes to provide input, and the public hearing is now open at 6:55. Dr. Patel, please call our first speaker.
First speaker is John Riley.
Hello, my name's John Riley. I live at 13154 Glen Circle Road in Poway. I'm here to urge you to vote for map 121, which uses natural boundaries. Let me explain further. For 10 years, the people in our school district have felt a great sense of frustration and aggravation with school board leadership. A $1 billion bond that sunk taxpayers and makes PUSD a national embarrassment. A corrupt superintendent that stole about $350,000 from taxpayers that was supposed to be used for our children. Misuse of Mello-Roos taxes. Ignoring the advice of our Budget Review Committee that warned of an $18 million structural deficit and projected deficits in the future of over $13 million a year, a black hole of deficit spending according to our associate superintendent. Despite your best intentions as a board, there continues to be a cloud of corruption, unethical leadership, fiscal irresponsibility with our school district. Yep. I realize you're trying to make changes, but the damage to the public trust is off the chart. Yep. That's why this is a great opportunity for you as board members, an opportunity to take a stand for positive leadership, an opportunity to live up to the title on the placards and on your cards that says that you are a trustee, an opportunity to rebuild the public trust. That's why it's crucial to choose a map that, unlike leaders of our past, is not self-dealing. A map that is beyond reproach, a map that passes the sniff test, the eyeball test, the integrity test, a map that can never be considered one where the politicians carefully choose the voters. The fact is that 4 of you hail from one community, Rancho Penasquitos. 4 of you live in an approximate 1-mile radius. Penasquitos is a distinct community and really should just have one representative. Any map that has the appearance of, gerrymandering to protect each of the board members' seats, or that has the physical shape of spaghetti on the wall, fails all of those tests. I know you're all thinking of 2018 and 2020 election cycles. Yep. It takes a great degree of skill and hard work to win an election. Perhaps more than any other person in this room, I know. But you can't be thinking of yourself at this time. You need to think as a trustee of the community. There are plenty of other people in this room that may want to have other maps that protect board members so their interests are protected. But these are the same interests that led us to our massive deficit spending. These are the same self-dealing interests that need to be taken with a grain of salt. This map selection decision is not the Hunger Games, may the odds be forever in your favor. This is Spike Lee. Do the right thing. Map 121 is what I recommend. That's your map. It has natural boundaries, no hint of manipulation. It's clean.
Next is Julie Hansen.
That is an easy gentleman to follow. My vote is also for 121. And whatever he said.
Yes, excellent.
Richard Mason.
Good evening. I live in Oaks North, over 55 community in Rancho Bernardo, and I would like to see Rancho Bernardo have an independent school district if that were possible. It clearly complies with all the requirements for the California rules for districting. But it has some outstanding qualities. One is the immense amount of senior participation in the schools, in both as volunteers and leaders. Take Rancho Bernardo High School Friends of the Library, board of 12 people. Only 3 of them have children in school. I would also like to point to the diversity in that area. Rancho Bernardo High School has 46 languages spoken in the homes of students, which makes that area rather outstanding. And my preference is for 121. Thank you.
Barry Norwood.
Madam Superintendent, staff, and board members, thank you for this opportunity to present boundary options for our district. I'm an 18-year active resident with 2 children that graduated in this school district. After watching the board video the last few meetings, the majority of the board prefer a map based on continuity. This positive term appears to be used for more individual gain rather than public interest, which is supposed to be the role of a trustee. How does 4 of you living in one community truly represent our district? My recommendation is for maps 109 or 121, which preserve community student populations that need respective community representation. I know we've just been told that the California Constitution may not be considered here, but it is of great concern to many citizens in our district. I urge you to carefully consider the map that will represent everyone in the district. Alienating certain taxpayers jeopardizes future revenue. Yep. We can't afford that. Please vote with integrity.
Thank you.
Yes. Kathy Muckley.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Muckley. I live in Rancho Bernardo, and I'm not for 121. I have studied these maps, and first of all, I really appreciate the board, and we elected you because we have trust in you. And I do not favor a map that's going to not allow the majority of you to run for your position. So I favor maps 127 and 131. And that's it. Thank you.
Gabriella Dow.
Good evening, and thank you for having the public participate in this important process. I think I echo most of the emails that you received, and certainly what we're hearing tonight, that to put forward map 112 is just something that is insulting to the community, truly. It really does show self-service to try to break across streets that simply don't make sense. Does not make sense in and of itself. So for board member TJ Zane to move map 112 forward and assume that nobody would pay attention, for board president Michelle O'Connor Ratcliffe to also move it forward at your last meeting was incredibly frustrating and incredibly disappointing to see. I support map 109, but my biggest concern is that the way this process has unfolded and the way that this map 112 was moved forward is indicative that the situation at Poway Unified is not getting better. I went through some very difficult times over the past few years serving on the board of the foundation at my son's elementary school at Valley Elementary. I also served on the technology advisory committee appointed by this board. I had no idea back then how serious the issues were at Poway Unified. I certainly understood that there were some serious problems with the way technology was implemented. I believe that there are still some issues, but the bigger issue is the common sense. TJ Zane's reckoning or reasoning at the last meeting was, well, we can always change it in the future. Absolutely. After your elections are completely gerrymandered, why not just go ahead and address it at the future, leave it for somebody else? That's the same approach that has led us to budget deficits. That's the same point of view and the same failure in leadership that led to the $1 billion bond. So my bigger concern is the lack of judgment, the lack of responsibility, and the lack of understanding that you are a public servant. This position does not exist to serve you, to serve your personal foundation, to serve your political goals. These are the classrooms that our students need to learn in. This is the next generation that we are going to depend on for the future stability of our nation and for the future success of our community. That is not something to be taken lightly. And again, it is incredibly disheartening to have to come back and to think that when you take your eyes off of this group, 3 board members in particular, and I'll say TJ Zane and Michelle O'Connor specifically, you take your eyes off of you two for a few months, and this is what you have to come back to. It's simply unacceptable. Thank you.
Hazel? Ms. Hazel?
Good evening. I'm Chris Azal with Poway Federation of Teachers and a resident of Poway. The new district map areas should allow PUSD voters the option to retain as many current board members as possible while still upholding the spirit of the Voting Rights Act. PUSD needs capacity and stability on the school board. Some of the maps up for discussion have the potential to eliminate as many as 3 current board members at once. Our district has recently experienced many changes in key leadership positions. We need school board members who can hit the ground running and keep us moving forward as a district. Maps that eliminate as many as 3 current board members at once would result in a lack of capacity on our board. The wishes of the voters should be honored. Some of the maps don't allow current board members to run in the next election cycle at all. Voters should have the opportunity to re-elect a board member who has represented their interests if they so choose. In summary, we need to maintain capacity and stability on the school board to the greatest extent possible and allow voters to decide if an incumbent has earned the right to serve another term. Thank you.
Tina Castro?
Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of College Bound. It's our view that maps 127 or 131 meet the needs of our college-bound families. We have a good group of board members that care about our children and making the process transparent. We are one unified district and not based on areas. Many of our children live in one area yet attend another school, and our voices need to be heard. The board should select map 127 or 131 because both of those maps meet the basic legal requirements, establish districts with legally required concentrations of minority voters, allows for some board continuity, and give the district an opportunity to maintain the stability it needs. Thank you.
Jana Johnson?
Good evening. I'm Jana Johnson. I live in Poway. Okay. What we're trying to do here is divide Poway Unified School District into 5 communities of interest. The emphasis here is on the term school district, and that makes this easy to me. Within PUSD, there are some obvious divisions. Poway, Rancho Bernardo, Rancho Penasquitos, Forest Ranch, Carmel Mountain Ranch are all well-defined areas in San Diego maps as independent communities. Each holds social events during holidays. Each has an economic hub. There are 5 large high schools that are affiliated with these communities, all similar in size and demographics. Poway, Rancho Bernardo, Del Norte, Westview, and Mount Carmel. These large community high schools, along with their feeder middle schools and elementary schools, are the most important social centers within the school district. Every one of us with children knows how many friends we make at these schools, along with the incredible number of hours we spend at these schools for sports, band, volunteering, and let's not forget, award ceremonies. Poway Unified School District, 5 high schools, 5 communities, 5 districts. Doesn't this make the most sense? Actually, apparently it does. And looking over the public comments received as of 6 p.m. last night, 22 people expressed the desire to use the current high school boundary maps to draw the new election maps. Fortunately, last week, map 130 was added to the proposed maps. This map has 5 balanced districts, each following the PUSD high school boundaries map as closely as possible under the 10% population deviation requirement. And better yet, as the forest area grows in population, this map can be easily modified to become even closer. What do you know? A popular, easy choice, 5 high schools, 5 communities, 5 districts. That's map 130. Integrity. Okay, we need to take a look at that. I had a lot to think about this week on integrity. And I read about the reports of gerrymandering. And additionally, there are extra conflicts of interest in this process that we're all undertaking. You, the trustees, are developing maps or selecting maps that will define whether or not you get to keep this job. Political party pressures, they're not obvious, but they're here. The teachers' union pushing for board continuity so they can retain their union interests. I understand these pressures and these desires, but we were all given explicit guidance under the California Constitution. Communities of interest shall not engage in relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. Maps 112, 131, along with any map dividing Rancho Penasquitos into 3 districts where 4 of you live, are an unwise and egregious choice. PUSD was once held in the highest regard within San Diego, but not anymore. The legacy of the previous PUSD board was a $1 billion bond. That board is gone. The teachers union couldn't save them. Currently, the news about PUSD is focused on misuse of public funds, the hiring practices.
Your time is up. I'm sorry. Mary Petrowski. I hope I said that right. Mary Petrowski? Petrowski? No? Chris Garnier?
My name is Chris Garnier. There's a fantastic article written by Ashley McGlone on October 24th, 2017, specifically talking about you, Mel Robertson. The article is specifically entitled, Poway Unified Officials Might Have Stumbled Upon New Financial Crimes. Some of you guys should look up. Now, as I go into the position at hand, I think of words of selfish, unscrupulous, immoral, unethical, deceitful, liars. I could be using those adjectives to talk about John Collins, but I'm actually using those adjectives to talk about Mel Robertson, talk about you, TJ Zane, and you, Michelle O'Connor, Radcliffe. You guys are the same individuals, the same people that stood by John Collins' side. The same people that are here, that are trying to divide up Penasquitos so you guys can maintain your selfish, self-serving desires. The most unscrupulous human beings in this community, Michelle Radcliffe O'Connor and you, TJ Zane. And you're not far behind, Mel. I'm in a completely different position, a different person, a different place than I used to be when I would come in here and rant and rave about ridiculous things, and I would be upset about things. But at the end of the day, what I've come to realize, and my realization, especially you, TJ, as you stare at me, as you said, you know what, you can't wait to die with a flag on your coffin. What a self-serving, ridiculous, self-centered, unscrupulous attitude that is. And Michelle O'Connor, you can't even look at me, Madam President, as I've asked you on multiple occasions for a meeting, a simple meeting for a Marine Corps veteran who served you to make sure you were safe, a person who's grown up with you in this district. You can look at me, ma'am. My goal and my position is 121, and actually it's anything that goes against whatever Michelle O'Connor Radcliffe and TJ Zane go for. These two individuals were individuals that 100% wanted John Collins to stay here. If you guys are asking or following whatever these unscrupulous individuals want, then you're asking for your school district to continue to be destroyed, to continue to have money stolen, to continue to have articles written by Ash McGlone that say Poway Unified officials might have stumbled upon new financial crimes. I'm disgusted and embarrassed that you guys are still here, and you guys are actually trying to use your ridiculous influence to try to manipulate this district even more. Shame on you.
Kim Garnier.
Good evening. My name is Kim Garnier. With all due respect to the NDC, their definition of gerrymandering seems condescending and is meant to silence us. The way I see it is anything that organizes the community for the benefit of a candidate is gerrymandering, and it's wrong. So with that, I'll move on. I'm here to address the maps as much as to address the overall corruption that still looms over PUSD. Until trustees O'Connor, Radcliffe, and Zane are gone, this sleazy behavior will continue. They are shamelessly self-serving, and these two board members are part of the old Poway. They protected John Collins at the expense of the students, teachers, and taxpayers. Fortunately, because of the diligent work of trustees Beatty and Sellers, as well as members of the community, John Collins is now facing 7 years in prison. And that's exactly what he deserves for what he did to this community. We are truly angry at the ongoing corruption brought forth by trustees O'Connor, Radcliffe, and Zane. The San Diego Union Tribune awarded the PQ Gerrymandering Award to the PUSD School Board for Map 112. Logan Jenkins wrote, "If 112 is adopted, Poway Unified Civic students, especially those who live in PQ, won't have to look far for a cynical example of the dark political art of gerrymandering." You're setting an example for students of what not to do. The two board members who fought for this map are sitting before us. It wasn't until they were publicly shamed in the UT that Map 112 lost some steam. Once again, O'Connor and Zane served themselves before serving the public. We can be sure that any map these two board members support is also self-serving. Their complete lack of ethics carries from one decision to the next, no matter how many times they try to tell us they're here for the kids. There are some in the community who support the maps that these board members are fighting for. Please understand that they have a vested interest in doing so, as these are the same people being paid by the district. One group here was paid $12,000 over the course of 4 years. The year that we began exposing John Collins' unscrupulous behavior, this group was paid $60,000, and they came in and gushed over John Collins, praising him and making false accusations against those who were speaking the truth. PUSD paid $60,000 to this group in spite of warnings about a waning budget. This group has no oversight and no accountability. This group will speak up for those who are vulnerable to being exposed, and they walk away with money in their pocket. I can only imagine how they will benefit for protecting O'Connor and Zane tonight. I am here to support Map 121, as it is fair, equitable, and sensible, and I implore and support trustees Beatty and Sellers to do what they always do, fight for the PUSD community. Thank you.
That was the final public comment.
The public hearing is now closed at 7:17. And so at this time, the board can ask any questions of Dr. Johnson. And yeah, any board members have any questions for Dr. Johnson?
I guess I just had a point of clarification with regard to the definition of gerrymandering. Certainly there's a common understanding that may, whether it's legal or not legal, be framed in terms of for the purpose of guaranteeing a safe incumbent seat. In fact, the Supreme Court case you mentioned that came out of Wisconsin, there were a couple of bipartisan groups, and I had referenced this in the last meeting. There were a couple of bipartisan groups that in fact mentioned the toxic and corrosive effect of gerrymandering done for the purpose of preserving incumbency regardless of the political party. So just that comment. Thank you.
And just so the public knows, this is a question time. There's the next hearing on the waiver, and then we'll come back for board action on this item. Any other question?
I guess not. Okay, thank you very much. So, as I mentioned previously, later in the board meeting, very shortly here, the board's going to consider action to adopt a resolution to approve one of these maps, initiate the county level process of approving the map, and changing the method of electing members of the board. So that takes us to 4.6. This is the public hearing regarding intent to request waiver from the State Board of Education of the Education Code requirement that the establishment of trustee areas and adoption of by-trustee election process be put to a vote by the electors of the district. Dr. Phelps.
The board's selection of the map and the approval of the related resolution later this evening will conclude the difficult choices portion of this process, but there are two more administrative steps that are needed. The first is this request of a waiver of the requirement to hold an election to make the change to by-area elections. This agenda item is the required public hearing prior to the consideration of a resolution directing staff to seek a waiver. The reason for this waiver is that if an election were held and the voters were to turn down the proposal, the potential plaintiffs would simply file a lawsuit and ask a judge to order the by-area elections implemented. Additionally, judicial action could be initiated prior to an election, seeking an order impacting the November 2018 election. Since placing the matter on the ballot may not resolve the issue in time for the November 2018 election, no jurisdiction has successfully fought such a lawsuit, and those that were sued paid settlements in the 6 and 7 figures. In addition to the cost of the election itself, of the over 155 CVRA-related election waivers requested of the State Board, every single one of them have been approved. For this reason, staff and legal counsel recommend that the district seek a waiver of the election requirement. So at this time, I turn the meeting back over to the president to call for a public hearing.
Okay, again, public speakers will be allotted 3 minutes to provide input regarding the intent to request a waiver. So at this time, the public hearing is now open at 7:20. Dr. Patel, are there any speakers?
No speakers on this topic.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed at 7:20. Thank you. This takes us to 10.2. Public hearing regarding the approval or defeat of resolution establishing by-trustee area elections in the Poway Unified School District, Elections Code 10010A. Dr. Phelps.
Under state law, an additional and final public hearing is required prior to action to approve or defeat a resolution changing from an at-large method of election to a district-based election method. This, therefore, is the time for public input on the change in election method from the current at-large system to a by-trustee area system. At this time, I'll turn it back over to President O'Connor Radcliffe to call for the public hearing.
Okay, again, public speakers will be allotted 3 minutes to provide input regarding this resolution establishing by-trustee area elections. So the public hearing is now open at 7:22. Dr. Patel, are there any speakers?
No speakers at this time.
Madam Superintendent, I would suggest that this is a good time to release the tally sheet that has been put forth so that if anyone sees it and wants to make comments based upon the tally sheet, they can do that before the public hearing is closed.
So the staff has created a tally sheet constructed to support the board in their consideration when selecting a map. This data is no way binding or an indication of how the board must select a map, but it serves solely as a supplemental information and data points that were collected from a group of constituents who chose to submit the comments for the board's consideration. So we did tally them, and they are available for the public if you'd like to see them, if you want to put them on the end. For anybody.
This tally
They're right here. We
does,
have them.
does not
Those are for the
also
board.
have anything to do with this portion, this public hearing. So I'm going to close this public hearing then at 7:23. And we'll move on to 10.3. This is resolution number 28/2018, adopting a map of proposed trustee areas and recommending that the San Diego County Committee on School District Organization approve and establish trustee areas from which Poway Unified School District board members will be elected in a by-trustee area election process. Dr. Phelps.
There you go. Now we arrive at the first of two action items. This one to approve a resolution that does two things. First, the board selects a map from among those discussed at the public hearing earlier this evening. And second, the board takes formal action to initiate the change from an at-large election to a by-trustee area election using that approved map. By approving this resolution, the district requests that the County Committee on School District Organization approve the board's selected trustee area map and election conversion. The move to by-area election is an unusual process because the board's action is not the final decision. The County Committee on School District Organization, which in San Diego County is comprised of the 5 county school board members, must also approve the selected map of trustee areas after conducting at least one public hearing within the boundaries of the district. This resolution formalizes the selection of the map and directs staff to file the necessary paperwork leading to the county committee's hearing and action. At this time, we handed out a paper to all of the trustees, and I'd like to ask that the trustees, in order to move through the various maps, because we have so many of them, to narrow it down, if the trustees wouldn't mind writing their top 4 preferred maps on the sheet, pass them down, and I'll read them out for the public.
These don't have to be in any particular order, right? Okay, thank you.
They're not in first, second, third choice. They're just the top 4 that you prefer. We created a tally sheet so the public in the meeting can see, as I read off what the board prefers, that the public can see how they're going to fare out. Okay, so President O'Connor Radcliffe prefers maps 115, 117, 131, and 129. Vice President Zane prefers maps 131, 117, 119, and 127. Trustee Patel selects map 118, 127, 129, and 131. Trustee Beatty selects map 121, 109, 130, and 125. Trustee Sellers selects 109, 121, 125, and 130. Dr. Johnson, do you suggest any next steps at this point?
Well, I mean, one of the things with this many maps, we definitely don't suggest walking through all the maps. Essentially, we're trying to focus the discussion on which map you like or which 2 or 3 maps you like and want to talk about for motion rather than trying to go through each one and yes or no on each one. That did not bring very much clarity, unfortunately. We were somewhat hoping that that would be a little more narrowing down in that we have a whole bunch of maps with 2 or 3 yeses. I don't know, there's really 2 groups. And
Sorry to interrupt, but
yes.
Let's just state the obvious here. I mean, we don't have a dumb audience. I think it's very clear what just happened.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Beatty. Thank you.
I mean, I guess if
The majority 3 board members voted for 131. Nothing. I just.
Why should we have voted?
Whoa, we're losing
All right,
control
this,
here.
we've got to have quiet from the audience at this point. Public participation on this is over at this point, so this is up to the board at this time. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Lyer.
my suggestion at this point is, since we had 2 board members who had the same list of 4, maybe have those 2 suggest the 1 or 2 that are their favorite, and then we had 3 board members who shared, I think, 2 or 3 among them. If there is, essentially from that list of 4, it's easy to see if those 2 have a preferred map or 2 out of the 4. That would help us focus on that side. And then among the others, we had what? I'm trying to go through here and figure out. We had 115 had 1 vote, 117 had 2, 131. So I don't know if we only had 1 map got 3 votes. So 131, I don't know if that's the preferred one of the other group, or if there are 2 or 3 we can get it down to, or even 4. That would certainly bring us to a much more concrete place to jump off into a discussion of a motion. So my suggestion would be, and you can obviously handle this however you want, but if the groups that liked 109, 121, 125, and 130 have a preferred 1 or 2 out of those, let's get that out on the table. And then if the group that backed 131, and I'm trying to see if there's a second one in that group, wants to come up with 1 or 2 that are their favorites, then we can move on to the debate between those maps and see if we can come to an agreement on one of those, that narrowed down group.
Well, I'll go ahead and volunteer to go first. First of all, I want to thank our community for the tremendous amount of input. I read every single one of those comments, the 145 comments, and there were many that were just incredibly thoughtful and well written, and I really, really appreciate that input. So thank you for that. And so I took to heart what the community was looking for. And, point-wise, it was clear that, 121 rose to the top as far as getting the most votes from the community. But as one of our speakers mentioned, there was a high demand, and it was probably the most common comment, other than the anti-gerrymandering, was to try to coordinate the maps with high school boundaries to have that progressive continuity in the school's community. And so there was a late support, sort of a late rally in support for 130. And I would say, unlike some of the other letters we got, I mean, it was clear there were some form letters, it was a few sentences and the same grammatical mistake was made in each one. That wasn't the case, say, for the ones, say, for 130 or for 121. They were, very well researched, and they said not only the writer explained not only what they liked about that map, but what they didn't like about all the others, and then actually enumerated all the maps that were just going to slice right through communities. For example, I live in Sabre Springs, and map 31 not only slices through my tiny community of Sabre Springs, but it actually slices through my housing development. So it's problematic. It's just, there's a little puzzle piece in there that traverses from Park Village through Sabre Springs and Carmel Mountain. So it's hard to justify that in terms of a community of interest. So if you want one, I would say 121, because that was hands down the community's favorite. If you want two, I would say 121 and 130. And just as a backup, 109 did actually get an enormous amount of support. I think that was because it was, it came off the bat as the first focus map, and so that garnered a fair amount of support. But that one kind of had an advantage of being out there for the longest time.
I guess Trustee Sellers, you had the same list. Would you agree with 121 and 130 being your preferred two out of those four?
Preferred two out of the four, yes.
Okay.
I think if you look at your groupings, it actually kind of follows along pretty well. We have the first two focus maps. 112 was summarily rejected, so that leaves you 109. You go to group 1, and the only ones that got any votes were 121 and 125, and just eliminated 125, so that leaves you 121. Group 1 is represented. Group 2, I can't speak to because I didn't vote for any of those, but 115 got 1 vote, 117 got 2 votes, and 131 got 3 votes. So I guess 131 would come out of that group. Group number 3, 18 got a vote, 19 got a vote, 20 nothing, 16 nothing, 27 got 2 votes, 28 got no votes, and 29 got 2 votes. So they would have to reconcile between themselves between 27 and 29. But it would appear one of those two would come out of that grouping. And then group 4 stands by itself, which is 130. So that would leave us 5 maps, which is at least better than 10, I guess. But like I said, I can't speak to group 3 because I didn't vote for any of the maps in group 3. I'm sorry, group 3. 127 and 129 each got 2 votes. Darsh is the only one who voted for both of them. Would you like to break the tie?
Are you asking me to move one of my picks to someone else's pick?
I'm just asking, between 127 and 129, which one do you prefer?
Well, I had originally been the one to vote. One of my votes was 127, so I don't want to add a second of my votes.
Well, I'm just suggesting
sorry.
that based upon the
Yeah.
groupings, only one map can come out of this group 3, or should or could. And you're the only one who voted for 2 maps in this grouping. So perhaps you had a preference for one over the other.
Yeah, essentially, as we were asking the folks that voted for those 4 maps, do they have a preferred one or two? Given 127, 129, do you have a preference between one or the other?
127, but I mean, yeah, sure. We can eliminate 129. As long as we're narrowing down our choices.
Right, that's the goal, is to try to narrow this down. It's hard to debate 14 maps. It's a lot easier if we can get down. And you can always come back to it. This is not final decisions. If there's a compromise coming back to one of these, you can.
I've got a question. So some of the board members voted for, say, 119 and 127. They appear to be identical, as well as 117 and 127. So Mr. Zane voted for 2 sets of maps that appear to be identical. I don't know if we can bring those up on the screen.
Well, we've already eliminated one of each.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
We've eliminated
Ones are gone.
We've eliminated 117, and we've eliminated, what was the other one you said was duplicated?
119?
119 has
That's
been
gone.
eliminated.
So what
yes.
remains is 127 and 131.
Correct. And one, right.
And just to
So
clear,
you're asking them to pick.
I'm suggesting that based upon questions you've asked in the process of elimination, that we agree that we're down to 5 maps: 109, 121, 127, 130, and 131. And there's quite a bit of variety in there, so I don't think we're going to lack.
Are we
for
including
discussion
109? I thought we were limiting to 2 choices. So it was 121, 130, and then 127 and 131?
Well, I included 109 because it was in its own group. If you want to strike that, I'm happy to
You mean
do.
130?
No, 109.
No, 109. I included that because it was one of the 2 focus maps, the one that didn't garner,
I'm not saying to strike it. I just wanted to clarify what the agreement was.
it was.
Trustee, Dr. Johnson, can you repeat back what you understand are the 4 we narrowed it down to thus far?
well, at this point, we have 121 and 130. And then from among I haven't done a full count, but from the other 3 who didn't vote for that group of maps, we have about 11. So the idea is to try to narrow it down into 1 from each of the groups.
So Trustee Sellers, what were the 4 that you had identified?
I think it's 121, check me if I say this wrong, 121, 127, 130, and 131.
Microphone, please.
Can you turn your
Charles, you
microphone?
have to have your mic on.
Sorry.
So you said, I'm sorry, 121,
Correct.
131,
Correct.
and what else?
127.
27.
As selected by Ms. Patel.
Uh-huh.
And 130 because it seems to stand
Got it.
by itself.
Okay. So are we, I guess,
I included 109 because that's the one we started with.
109 as well? So then we're down to 5 maps, is that what you're saying? Okay. Are the trustees in agreement of narrowing it down to those 5 maps? Any comments? No? Okay. So we're in agreement to narrow it down to 109, 121, 127, 130, 131. So at this point, you want to limit your comments to just those 5 maps and then see if we can narrow it down even further? And or start to eliminate some of them?
But if I might, I would suggest that 109 is, for the reasons Trustee Beatty and Sellers mentioned, is probably the easiest one to eliminate, and if there's no objection to that. Given that I think my impression would be that Trustee Beatty is correct. The support for 109 was in large part because it was early, and I think the people that supported that also liked 121 and 130.
Are the trustees okay with that? Okay. Go ahead and eliminate 109. Now we're down to 4, 121, map 127, map 130, 131. So at this point, will any of the trustees like to discuss any of those 4 or make a motion to do anything?
Yeah.
Bring them up and put
to just those 4 maps?
I can. Here, give me just 1 minute. I'll make a new slide.
Okay, he's going to make a slide. So he's going to make a slide of just those 4 maps.
So I think it's a good time to take a 5-minute break while he does that. All right, we're going to take a break right now. Come on back.
What? Yeah. You're having fun.
Yes, actually, I'm live on the internet, so I can go to that interactive map and zoom in and out. Yeah, I suspected that. We worked with tech staff and they got us hooked up. Okay.
Fantastic, TJ. Fantastic.
All right, let's start this thing back up again. We've got the 4 maps up. Okay, so Mr. Sellers, you asked for these maps to be put up. Here they are.
Yeah, President Conrad-Radcliffe, if I might, I just want to make sure, I think most of the audience, and I'm sure the board is aware of this, but I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page in terms of the impact of trustee areas on the board. What was talked about a little bit earlier is drawing lines to protect versus not being able to vote. The impact of how this works under state law is if 2 trustees who are up in different years are in the same area, the trustee area is assigned to the second year. And so just so people are aware, and this is fine if it's the way the board goes, under maps 121 and 130, all of the board members up in 2018 would not be able to run for re-election. It's not that the voters could vote them off for yes or no. They couldn't run because they wouldn't reside in a trustee area that's up that year. In 127, Trustee Sellers and Patel are together in one area, and because Trustee Patel is 2020, that area would automatically be assigned 2020 by county rule, so Trustee Sellers could not run for re-election. And in 131, Trustees Zane and Sellers would be in the same area. Since they're both the same year, they could both run. Only one could be elected. But I just wanted to make sure everyone in the audience was on the same page of knowing that. Obviously, most of the audience, I think, does, given the comments made before. But I did want to be clear about it. It's not that a trustee ends up in an area that's hard for them to run in. They end up in an area where they're not allowed to run at all. I guess.
Oh, just to clarify, I mean, they could just wait 2 years and run then. I mean, that's an option.
Correct. They would have to leave the board at the end of this term and then run as a non-board member 2 years later. Yes. So at this point now, we've narrowed it down. If the board has questions you'd like to see about any of these, or if you're prepared to make a motion, I guess we're probably at that stage.
So we're still in 10.3, and so does the board have any other questions or comments or anything for this at this point? Because we are down to 4 maps, 121, 130, 127, and 131. And so if the trustees want to narrow it down further, or do you want to make comments, or do you want to make a motion?
Do we have speakers on this item?
Sure, I'll say a few words. First of all, one of the things I discovered this evening is that my children are not the only ones subject to selective hearing based upon my comments at previous meetings, not just the last one. I think everyone knows it was well reported. I've been opposed to this Biary election process from the very beginning. And I didn't push for 112 per se. I moved it forward as a focus map because that evening there was a number of public commenters talking about continuity. Knowing, and it panned out, there was a lot more maps that came in after that meeting than came in before that meeting, that there was an opportunity for folks to come up with other maps that handled issues of continuity. So it was to keep the conversation going. For what it's worth, actually I submitted no maps whatsoever. I didn't assist with directing any map or drawing. Or assist with it. I didn't direct any drawing of maps. I pointed out at the time what was pointed out in the presentation, that these maps functionally will be in effect for a single election cycle. And so therefore, I was adamantly opposed. I expressed this, I said at the time, and for this reason I can't support maps numbers 121 or 130 whatsoever. I was not in favor of any map that put 4 trustees in one single area. But I was in favor of a map or maps that had the potential of creating at least one area wherein there was 2 trustees facing each other, 2 or even 3 trustees facing each other. It's for that reason that I narrowed my top two choices to 117 and 131. 117 was knocked out. But 131 does not preclude any existing board members from running again in 2018. In fact, it would actually place Trustee Sellers and I in the same district. 10 out of the 30 maps submitted placed 4 trustees in the same area, 2 of which were not population-based. 4 out of 30 maps submitted placed all 5 trustees in their own area. And I didn't select a single one because I agree that was just very for an incorrect use of the word gerrymandered. So roughly a third of those who submitted maps that placed 4 trustees in the same area. Another third, 11, appeared to presented maps that place at least one of us with 1 or 2 other trustees in the area. And so I also view the comments that were submitted, and I appreciate the tally. I was keeping my own tally. It was pretty close to what the district compiled. It was more, I would argue, qualitative than necessarily quantitative, because it looks as though we each, when tallying those comments, if one commenter said something positive about 121 and negative about 131, I would record the pro and I'd record the con. So my tallies were roughly the same, but I also took it one step further. I was just curious. I couldn't help but notice what Trustee Sellers noticed as well. There was a little bit of an organized effort out there, pushing a couple maps. Actually, as many as 4 different maps. There appeared to be some organized effort to promote. Not surprisingly, they are at least 4, if not all 4, of the ones that are before us right now. But I also took the extra step. I was curious. I said, well, let me look at some of these commenters. I'm just kind of curious, where do they live? So I can get a little bit of a sampling. And so access to the public voter file shows me I can see where people live. I can see where a number of commenters came from Rancho Bernardo, Forest Ranch predominantly. The comments for all these qualitative comments were not evenly distributed throughout the entire Poway Unified School District. I'm also mindful of the directions we got at the outset, where we need to be taking a look at the voting age population, citizen voting age population within the districts. I saw that there was a number of commenters who presented comments that weren't even registered to vote. And there was a number of people who submitted comments who don't even live in Poway Unified School District. So for all these reasons, I support, as I indicated earlier, maps 131 and 127. Those were 2 of my top 4 choices. But if I had to lead with one, I would say it's 131. And 131 does not preclude Trustee Sellers from running for re-election again in 2018. Excuse me, 127 does not, pardon me, 131 does not preclude Trustee Sellers from running again in 2018, whereas 127 would. Thank you.
I've thought a lot about these maps, and I've gone back and forth, and as you guys all know, I'm the man in the middle, right, so to speak. Before this legal challenge, our community was very clearly defined as Poway Unified School District, with a board of education that was accountable to all constituents in the district and elected by all constituents in this district. From my perspective, this mapping process seems to have created what I consider a false dichotomy in our community, where residents now feel that the boundaries need to match either high school areas or their community identity, which have nothing to do with our unified school district goals. While this legal challenge has brought this districting process to our community, and it's opened the door for some to divide our community into small, very vocal factions, I feel strongly that we need continuity and stability to ensure that our district stays focused on delivering the best quality of education we can. We've strayed from that a little bit. We have enough significant challenges ahead in regards to budget and our SPED program, and I can't name a number of other things that the board is looking at. Finances. We really need to remain a unified school district. I'm appealing to this public that whatever the outcome is, we remain a unified school district, because our kids don't go to schools in their district. or in their school boundary. Our parents live in one area and work at a different school district. We're really one community, really. We have kids that go across for programs, for pathways. It's not about Rancho Bernardo and Rancho Penasquitos. It's about Poway Unified School District and making sure we get equity at every single school across the school district. We're working on that. We're not there yet. As I looked at these maps, I continually reminded myself about the premise of this legal challenge to begin with. The center of that was that the at-large system can lead to minority voter dilution, thus creating districts that concentrate minority voters so that they can have the ability to elect their preferred candidate really is the primary goal. Additionally, we need to meet the legal challenge, the legal requirements that all maps be population balanced, reasonably compact, and follow natural man-made features where possible. All the maps we've ended on meet these legal requirements. I have heard many members in the community agree with my opinion that multiple board members per high school boundary makes sense. I think most of the maps do that as well. A couple of them don't very clearly or try very hard not to do that. As I said before, many of our students attend schools outside their official high school boundary due to special needs, due to academic pathways, or even other reasons that maybe I personally don't know about because I don't know every single student in the school district yet. I support maps that also include SFID properties in every single district. There were some maps that looked like it was creating a Del Sur Forest Ranch map that didn't have any SFID properties. What that would do is not every trustee would have skin in the game when it comes to addressing that capital appreciation bond situation that we're in. So I did consider that when choosing my maps. Creating a map or adopting a map that would intentionally leave only 2 returning board members after the 2018 elections will genuinely bring instability to our district. It's a huge learning curve for this board. It really is. We go through lots of training to get here. Believe it or not, it's true. This is not an easy job. It's not something you do casually. None of us take this job lightly. None of us take it lightly. It's a very serious position. And to do this when top-level administrators are working to balance our budget and improve our special needs program right in the middle of these very important initiatives, while we're bridging the achievement gap, working on programs to bring all of these things to our children. Our administrators are also developing positive relationships between our union groups, our labor groups, and the entire school community. To add that instability right at this time does not make sense to me. Creating that instability would not be in the best interest of our students, of our kids in this community. We're a unified school district. We're way beyond Rancho Bernardo and Poway and PQ. We're way beyond that. We have more in common than we have different from us. So in the end, if I have to pick one, it's going to be map 131. Thank you.
Dr. Johnson, can you, in map 131, can you identify the district that TJ and I would share?
Yes, it would be Area C.
C. Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, you have 3 speaker slips. Could you ask them if they would like to speak during this topic? The next topic is just the waiver. So
yeah, they've clearly indicated 10.4, and public comment has to happen before, from what I understand of our procedure. That's what the note said to me. So that's correct, right, Superintendent? So the comments can address the item of 10.4 specifically.
Okay.
I move to adopt map 131.
Second.
All right, there is time for further discussion here. I see Mr. Sellers.
Okay. Well, there's not much left to say after that. I support map 121, even though it redistricts me out of office, because there are several things I like about it. One is you look at the pictures, certainly the prettiest. It's the most compact, has nice sharp edges, and it's a good-looking map. I, like Mr. Zane, had nothing to do with any of these maps. Truth be told, I went on there, couldn't figure out how the thing worked. Honestly, it's just I need to get some.
I gave up on it too.
Yeah, I need to get some tech help from Jennifer down there because I couldn't figure out how to work it. So, but I like that. I also like the fact that it doesn't bifurcate Rancho Bernardo. Rancho Bernardo is connected on both sides of the freeway as it is in reality, and so I like that part of it. I like the fact that it has no three border districts. By three borders, I mean a district that runs the gamut either all the way east to west or north to south. If you look at all the districts, they all have two borders with the exception of C, which has one border. You look at 131, and it's got that massive District A on the left that runs all the way from the north to the south and takes up the entire western border. And I don't like the way that's drawn. I think it's inefficient and unwieldy. So I'm perfectly willing to adopt a map that puts me out of office. I'm fine with that. I think we need to adopt the best map for the public, not the best map for particular private interests. While continuity is nice, we've done this before where we've had 2 board members stay and 3 go. And we've accomplished a lot in that amount of time. So I strongly support map 121. I wish we could vote on that. I wish we could have a vote where we cast our vote. Everybody votes for one map, and we see which map gets the most votes rather than having the motion be for a particular map. That would be my preference.
I'd just like to add a point of clarification. Since I did learn how to use the mapping tool and I used it quite well. and I love this stuff. This is fun for me. I hope to do it in the city council maps that are going to be coming out soon. 131, as a commissioner, 131, while it looks like it's north to south, the whole northern section, as you can see, is undeveloped property. And if you tried to click on it, 131 was not my map, by the way, but if you tried to click on it, because I'm familiar with the precincts, it would have ended up looking pretty odd, almost like 127. So there were just choices between how you were going to click on those precincts. They're odd precincts to begin with. And I would say the same thing for in D, on 131 or C in 127, those are odd formations because of the way the precincts are drawn. There's a Black Mountain that causes some of that, the wavy lines there, and some other features that are precinct related.
Trustee Patel, if I can just clarify, it's census blocks, not precincts.
Census blocks. So that explains why that, at least for A, goes north to south. There's no one really there. Not even developed yet.
Any other discussion?
I guess I'll just make another brief comment because I was asked what my recommendations were, so I gave my pros for 121 and 130, but not the reasons that I didn't like the other maps. Since we're focused on 131, I'll focus my remarks on that one. It had awfully high negatives from the community. In fact, other than 112, which was universally panned, 131 had 9. It had the highest negatives. Community members begged us, to not to create a map where the disproportionate number of trustees would come from one quadrant, and that's the Rancho Penasquitos southwestern quadrant. And that's exactly what this map does. So you have areas going from Sabre Springs, Carmel Mountain, Poway, Rancho Bernardo, Del Sur, 4S, Santa Luz, Santa Fe Valley. All of these areas are going to be represented by board members from Rancho Penasquitos. And that's exactly what the community said not to do. They said, give us geographic representation. We don't want voting blocks. And for instance, I'm very familiar with my neck of the woods. The reason this map looks like a little puzzle piece is because it cuts through backyards. It cuts through my development in Sabre Springs. The Bellefleur community is bifurcated by this map. A development is bifurcated by this map in Sabre Springs. I mean, it really, you can't justify it based on natural or man-made geographic boundaries. And the same with the western border there. It cuts right through a park village, literally through like a back alley, like backyards there. It's just to the west. If you enlarge in the map, it's just to the west of Black Mountain Road, which is a major north-south road that goes up to Camino del Sur. So, I mean, you can't justify this map based on geographic boundaries. And then it's just, it's odd looking with regard to, granted, the top end, there's some open space there, but just, the dimensions here just are really incongruous. So, Carmel Mountain. So in addition to Sabre Springs being bifurcated, Carmel Mountain is as well, and then there's a little bit of Poway in there as well. And I'm referring to the little puzzle piece right there in Area D. And then, of course, Rancho Bernardo is split into multiple areas as well. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, seeing no more comments. The motion on the floor, a motion by Dr. Patel, second by Mr. Zane, is that we adopt map 131. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, the vote is 3-2 with O'Connor, Ratcliffe, Zane, and Patel voting yes, Beatty and Sellers voting no. That map is the selection of the board. So Dr. Johnson, I know this was already noted in the election sequencing report posted on the district's website, but for the record right now, can you identify which trustee areas in the map the board selected are going to hold elections in which trustee areas and how that's determined? Thank you.
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, under the county committee guidance, which they're basing on the Ed Code, any trustee area that has a 2020 trustee in it would be in 2020. So that would be in map 131, it would be trustee areas A and E. And so as a result, because we keep the current cycle, and your current cycle is for 3 seats up in 2018 and 2 seats up in 2020. So the other 3, B, C, and D, would be up in 2018.
Thank you for the clarification. All right, that takes us to 10.4.
And
I'm sorry, Mr.
not to get, as was mentioned, this goes to the county committee afterwards. The resolution actually does 2 things. It approves a particular map and initiates the process to change your actual election system from at-large to by trustee. So I recommend, now that you've chosen a map, I recommend that in conjunction you also adopt the full resolution. You basically, there's a blank in the resolution on which plan you're choosing. You've done that. Dr. Johnson just went through the blanks for the election cycle. Now I recommend, just so there's a formal action in the minutes, to send to the county committee of adopting the full resolution.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as it's just been laid out?
Move to approve.
Second.
And a motion by Mr. Zane and second by Dr. Patel with the blanks filled in as just outlined. Any discussion on this one? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
That is O'Connor, Ratcliffe, Patel, Zane, yes. Beatty, Sellers, no. That motion passes. Are we good to move on to 10.4 at this point? Okay, thank you very much. All right, 10.4 is resolution number 29-2018, request of the State Board of Education for a waiver of the Education Code requirement that the establishment of trustee areas and adoption of a by-trustee election process be put to a vote by the electors of the district as set forth in Education Code sections 5019, 5020, 5021, and 5030. Dr. Phelps.
This item is the last and final action related to the election method transition, the formal board approval of filing the request for an election waiver, the subject of a public hearing earlier this evening. As noted at that time, holding an election in which the voters turn down a move to by area elections provides virtually no legal protection against a lawsuit under the California Voting Rights Act. And in fact, it typically provides significant evidence in favor of plaintiffs and usually leads to 6 or 7 figure payments from the district to plaintiff attorneys and a judicial order implementing by area elections.
Thank you very much, Dr. Phelps. At this time, then, we should go to the public comment. Dr. Patel.
Yes, we do have public comments on this item. First is Jana Johnson. Okay. Next is Gabriella Dow. And the last is Chris Garnier.
I won't pass. First, I want to thank you, Trustee Sellers and Trustee Bate, for continually putting our district and the people in our community first, for looking. You guys continually do that, for not allowing your own personal interest to get in your way, unlike our especially these other two Board of Education members that we have. You guys continue to look out for our best interest. I would say the majority of people that spoke today spoke against these two, and yet these three decided to go ahead and vote against what the community wanted. And it's disheartening. It's hurtful. You know, my time, so my service in the Marine Corps for almost 10 years was to make sure that the people that were elected for us actually spoke for the people. It's unfortunate that we have these three that don't speak for us. Remember this number, 37-207 or 2017-21296-CU-P0-NC. Again, that's 37-207-21296-Charlie Uniform Papa Oscar November Charlie. That's the federal law case that Trustee Michelle O'Connor and Trustee Zane.
Can I interrupt you?
This has to 100% do with this. Excuse me, Ms. Patel.
It does? Okay.
It does.
I'm sorry.
So this is the lawsuit that Trustee Zane and Trustee O'Connor Ratcliffe are going under for suppressing freedom of speech. Tonight is a clear, perfect example of their continued efforts to deny freedom of speech within our community. Federal case, one more time so we have it, 37-2017-2126-Charlie Uniform Papa Oscar November Charlie.
Mr.
Federal,
Garnier,
this has to do with.
I understand. We're talking about the resolution. Thank you.
Only because you brought it up, but we'll see you in court.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second.
On a motion by Mr. Zane, seconded by Dr. Patel. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. This takes us to our consent calendar. I'd like to start at the end with Ms. Myra. Would you like to pull anything from the consent calendar?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sellers?
No, thank you.
Dr. Patel?
No, thank you.
Mr. Zay?
No.
And nothing for me. Okay, at this time, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve.
Second.
On a motion by Mr. Zane, second by Ms. Beatty. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. That takes us to the 6.0s. 6.1, Annual Investment Policy Review and Quarterly Disclosure of Local Agency Investments for Community Facilities Districts numbers 1 through 16. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This is the district's investment policy with respect to our CFD funds. All our community facility district funds are invested in very secure and liquid securities. All are FDIC insured, and we have additional agreements with the custodial institution to fully collateralize our deposits, thereby providing insurance on 100% of the funds on deposit. The district's CFD funds, as you know, are managed by our trustee, Zions Bank, and attached is a report disclosing our investment balances by CFD and improvement areas for your consideration.
Thank you. This is an information-only item, so there's no vote here. Are there any questions for Mr. Little?
I will say this. Thank you for answering my questions earlier. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
They were all technical details to help with my understanding. Thank you.
Your pleasure.
There's that learning curve you were talking about. All right, 6.2, Annual Investment Policy Review and Quarterly Disclosure of Local Agency Investments for Poway Unified School District. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to Government Code Section 53646, we provide the quarterly disclosure for the district's other funds. District funds related to the general fund and the other district's funds are invested in the San Diego County Treasurer as required. As you know, the county practices a very conservative approach to investing, focusing on principal preservation, and attaches an accounting of the district's fund invested in the county pool and at other institutions. You can see by the report a little over $71.5 million in the county treasurer investment pool, and then there's about $5.5 million in other banks and credit unions for revolving cash and ASB funds.
This is also an information item. Are there any questions for Mr. Little? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on. Another information item for you, Mr. Little.
Yes.
6.3 is the annual report for fiscal year 16-17 required for the collection of statutory level 1 and alternative level 2-3 school fees pursuant to Government Code Section 66001 and 66006. Mr. Little.
Thank you, Madam President. The title says it all.
Yeah, super.
Yes. So we collected $508,690 in revenues for level 1 and level 2 developer fees. Of that, $486,305,000 was reportable fees. The other was interest. Schedule A of the report indicates the expenditures associated with those fees of $184,620, the bulk of which, as you know, were for the relocatable classrooms at a few of our sites as delineated in attachment A. The net of $324,070 was added to our beginning fund balance of a little over $2 million, so that our ending fund balance as of June 30th, 2017 was $2,395,295.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Little? It's amazing, your
Thank you.
clarity here. There's no questions at all. All right, 6.4, our enrollment report, number 2 for 2017-2018. Mr. Little.
Yes.
You're full of information items
This
tonight.
is it. Thank you. This is our second month enrollment report for the period ending October 13th, 2017. As you can see, our total enrollment at the end of the second month is 36,551 students, which represents a net gain of 17 students over our prior month. Our attendance rate for month 2 was 97.24, a bit down from month 1, but still above the 97.0% goal. And our 2-month average is 97.59%. Very, very good, and we hope to maintain that as long as we can.
I do have a comment for you. I know I've mentioned it before, but I want to mention it for the public. I think we can do better if we align our professional growth days. I think that's an area we've talked about before, and if we can do that, every small fraction of a percentage is significant for our ADAs. And as we're looking to do everything possible to bring more money home, I think that's something we can do, and I think our community will benefit from that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to the 7.0s. 7.1 is ratification of stipulated agreement for student expulsion. Dr. Robertson.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we bring forward 2 stipulated agreements for the board's action.
So we'll need a separate vote on each of those. Is there a motion on the first?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so let me be specific. This is a motion by Mr. Zane, second by Ms. Beatty, to approve and ratify the stipulated agreement for expulsion in case number 2017-2018.03. All right, any discussion or questions? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Is there a motion to approve and ratify the other case number?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, on a motion by Mr. Zane, second by Dr. Patel. This is to approve and ratify the stipulated agreement for expulsion in case number 2017-2018.04. Any questions? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously as well. 7.2, ratification of enforced expulsion. Dr. Robertson.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we ask the board to ratify and enforce expulsion due to a violation of the terms of the original.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this one?
Motion to approve.
Second.
On a motion by Mr. Zane, second by Ms. Beatty. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Aye. That was unanimous as well. 7.3 is approval of updated 2017-2018 Special Education Community Advisory Committee members. Dr. Robertson.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we bring forward the names of the 2017-18 Special Education Community Advisory Committee. This committee meets regularly and serves an advisory role to our district regarding special education services for our students. I believe we have some members here from the CAC. If they're here, if you could please stand and be recognized. And thank you. Thank you for bringing your experiences and expertise to our attention. And we ask the board now to approve our committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, that's a motion by Ms. Beatty, second by Dr. Patel. Before I call the vote, I do want to say I recently attended a CAC meeting. It was enlightening. We're approving their roster right now, but they are doing really, really important work to help our special education community, our parent community in particular. They need to stay knowledgeable and involved, and this is a group that's doing that. This is their reason they exist, and they're doing a great job, and they have some really big ideas and a large, caring community. I mean, their parent involvement committee is enormous. It has almost every member of the CAC is on that committee. So I was very impressed. So again, I just want to thank all those board members. Thank you.
Thank you.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously as well. Thank you. Did I skip past it? Oh, 7.4, California School Dashboard Local Indicators. Dr. Robertson, this is a presentation. I'm excited.
Tonight we have a very brief presentation to share our progress on our local indicators required by the State Board of Education. We had to report this before December 1st. The report is in 4 specific areas as listed in the green sheet, and I've asked Doug Johnson, an Executive Director in Learning Support Services, to share the local indicator data with you. So, Doug?
Thank you, Dr. Robertson. Good evening, Dr. Phelps, Madam President, members of the board and the Poway Unified staff, and members of the public. This evening, I would like to provide you information on the local control funding formula, local indicators, which are uploaded to our district's dashboard in the next few weeks. A component of the California School Accountability Dashboard are local indicators These indicators are focused on assisting school districts in assessing strengths, weaknesses, and areas that need improvement. The state has identified 4 local indicators that districts are called upon to self-analyze in terms of the 2016-17 school year. This self-analysis was conducted with input from all district departments. In priority number 1, we examine our appropriate placement of teachers, student access to curriculum aligned to the standards, and the condition of our school facilities. This data is in alignment with the Williams Act report that was provided in an earlier board meeting. In using the tool shown on a slide prepared by the California Dashboard, we examined our implementation of the state academic standards local indicator priority 2. In this light, we utilized the 5-point scale displayed on this slide to chart our progress. In ELA, we are continuing to shift our English language arts instruction to be in line with the California state standards. We are in the first year of utilizing the adopted benchmark advanced ELA, ELD curriculum in grades K through 2. At all of the other grade levels, we are using a variety of instructional practices and materials focused on close reading, claim, reasoning, and evidence, and incorporating more non-fictional text into our lessons. In English language development, our elementary teachers have been oriented to the California ELD standards, and the district has adopted a new integrated ELA, ELD standards-aligned curriculum. Secondary school teachers have also been oriented to the California ELD standards and are beginning the process of building awareness and implementation. In mathematics, we are in full implementation district-wide of the mathematics framework. Currently, we are in the initial implementation phase in regard to the California Next Generation Science Standards. These standards were adopted by the State Board of Education on November 3rd, 2016. The new History Social Science Framework was adopted by the State Board of Education on July 14th, 2016. At this time, we are currently in the exploration and research phase. In the areas of career technical education, health, physical education, and visual and performing arts, we are in full implementation, while in the world languages, we are in initial implementation as we are exploring the world readiness standards for language learning. Additionally, we are in full implementation of supporting our teachers and administrators in implementing the teaching of the California state standards via our site-specific professional learning structures and through our differentiated teaching and learning cooperative opportunities. In local indicator number 3, parent engagement, we utilize the results of the 2016-17 District Parent Perception Survey. This parent survey was administered by the West Ed Company. This survey was developed to align with the biannual California Healthy Kids Survey given to students to yield comparative analysis of both parent and student perspectives. We are proud of our parent survey results as indicated on this slide. At the school sites, we continue to examine and implement a variety of strategies to involve our parents in providing input to our school initiatives and educational programs. As a means to analyze the school climate on our sites, the California Healthy Kids Survey was used. This tool is administered to students at grades 5, 7, 9, and 11 on a biannual basis. The information gleaned from this tool provides our staff with focus areas for students to enhance their overall school experience. The questions reported above were chosen as representative of the required state measures of student perceptions of school safety and connectedness. On a regular basis, our staff examines our social emotional supports that are provided to students in order to curtail negative student-to-student behaviors. In conclusion, district staff is required to measure the school district's progress in these priority areas as met, not met, or not met for 2 years. using the local self-reflection tools and the self-reflection tool provided by the California State Dashboard, district staff has determined that PUSD has met the criteria for all 4 local indicators. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, guys.
This is an information item, so before we let him go, any questions?
He took off.
All right.
Doug, thank you very much.
I guess just a comment as that disappeared, and I know. Thank you. Yeah, we have some work to do with regard to the have not been hit or pushed by someone who wasn't kidding around in 5th grade, as well as the mean rumors. I guess that's that's that middle school time. That's just the toughest time in school all around. And Board Member Patel also pointed out the 11th graders happy to be at school. That's kind of a disappointment there. I mean, I guess everybody's probably got their own opinion if it's because of social issues or because of the tremendous amount of pressures. Being the parent of 4 children who've been through 11th grade, I would say probably the pressures and all the testing. But, probably everybody has their own perspective on that. At least 70% is happy. It's that 30%, I guess, that's just maybe feeling overwhelmed.
To add to that, because those are concerns that I saw immediately, I haven't seen this survey, so I don't know what it looks like and how the questions are parsed out. Do we break out I am happy to be at this school into more specific, I feel academic pressure or
so what
the emotional side of it or something like that? Do we break it out a little better
so
on the
there
survey?
are multiple questions that actually come on the survey. We can provide you with the whole survey. And just so you know, we do have follow-up with all of our principals. When these surveys come out, we actually give them all the data, and we ask them to set goals around these particular pieces for our students.
And for the elementary school kids, as 5th graders, I mean, I would say my 5th grader is probably pretty good at figuring out whether they've been intentionally pushed or not. But do they understand what they're being asked when they fill out this survey?
So that's a great question, and we believe there are different interpretations of that just for any of the students that do answer those questions. Whatever their interpretation, they do answer it this way, and it's still our responsibility to ensure that all of our students are safe in wanting to come to school each day.
I've got a 5th grader this year, so I'm going to remember to ask her about this survey.
Thank you.
And then just to add on to what Board Member Beatty said, I did the survey last year, and I do think that with the juniors, it's a little bit of a combination of things, but mostly it's likely the stress of being in 11th grade and having to think about college, especially because I believe the survey is done towards the end of the year, or is it towards the beginning of the year?
I think we changed when it was done. I don't know if either Todd or Doug, did we? November.
Yeah, it's the SAT time. So it's a stressful year.
All right, that takes us to 8.1, our proposed 2018-2019 student attendance calendar. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President. The Board of Trustees has presented with a first reading of a proposed student calendar for the 2018-2019 calendar year. A committee comprised of representatives from various employee groups met to develop the proposed calendar. Several factors were taken into consideration in developing the calendar, such as testing calendars for the upcoming school year, holiday breaks, as well as transportation needs. The calendar that you see in front of you is for a 180-day student calendar with professional growth days built in for September 28th, February 1st, and then a third date to be determined by schools throughout the district. The winter break, based on the calendar for the upcoming school year, would begin on December 24th and be a 2-week winter break period. Spring break would be on April 15th through the 19th. The recommendation for the adoption of the 2018-19 calendar will be brought back to our Board of Trustees at the December meeting. Tonight is just a first review and to answer any questions related to the student calendar. Once the student calendar is approved, discussions will then related to the employee work years with our employee associations will begin so that we can finalize the work year for our employees based on the student calendar that is approved by our Board of Trustees.
I did bring up a comment with the superintendent regarding this. Again, I'll highlight the aligning Progro days. I think I would like to see that in the December calendar, whether we do that or not, in the detailed version, maybe not this version. And also, I mentioned I've had several community members approach me about perhaps not as holidays for the school district, but on the calendar for teachers and other staff members to acknowledge some more inclusive holidays. We have a growing, diverse population in our community, and maybe holidays like Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or Ramadan or Diwali, some of the holidays that really impact a growing, significant portion of our families in our district. Maybe they can just be highlighted on the calendar so final exams aren't put on those days when we know kids are going to be out of school, or certain field trips aren't planned for those days. Because while I'm not asking for those to be given as holidays, we will have absences because of them. And just to bring awareness to our district, I've never seen anything like that anywhere, and I don't think our teaching community has that awareness.
So if I can respond.
And I believe other school districts do that.
Yes, if I can respond to that, you're right, it's not like on this calendar, but every year we provide all of the principals those calendars so they can be mindful around testing and the different, it's exactly what you've been asking. It's not on here, but we do provide that every year for our principals and their planning.
There still seems to be trouble with that, though, so maybe there's room to grow.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Then 9.1 is Poway Strategic Planning Technology Committee. Ms. Burks.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, the Technology and Innovation Department is excited to announce the launching of the new Poway Strategic Planning Technology Committee. The focus of this advisory committee will be to help in the development of the new PUSD technology plan. The committee will be made up of a wide range of stakeholders, including certificated and classified staff members, union representatives from both PFT and PSEA, students, parents, guardians, community members, and business partners. The committee will meet several times in the upcoming months to strategize and develop priorities using the existing technology framework, looking at survey results that we will be gathering from the community, and gathering additional feedback from town hall meetings. Next week, we will send out a survey and invite interested stakeholders to submit and let us know why they'd like to be part of this committee. Our goal is to have those interest forms back and looked at after break. The first meeting will take place in December, and the new technology plan will be presented to the board in early spring.
Questions for Ms. Burke?
I just had a brief comment. I wanted to thank you for putting this together. And you probably are aware our board, when our new board majority came on back in 2015, after the 2014 elections, when we had 3 new board members. The first committee our board created was the Educational Technology Advisory Committee, and because it was our first baby, that's where we made all our mistakes. And but the committee, they came together, and they were incredibly dedicated and spent a lot of time and energy working to try to come up with a plan that the district didn't have. In fact, this was right after this, the infamous Bob Moore report came out, where we paid $40,000 for a consultant to throw up his hands and say, I can't do this, I can't put together a technology plan. There's too much dysfunction. And so they had to work with that, and then some, just coordinating between staff and the board, and the committee was sort of put in the middle. Anyway, they came up with their final report, and that was posted on the district site, and that kind of went by the wayside. And I think there were some feelings because of it, but I think it would be a good show of faith, at minimum, to reach out to, if we have, probably our district admin has the names and contact information of those participants, the parent and community participants, and I think it would be good to reach out to them to ask them if they'd like to make an application for the committee.
Okay, looking forward to seeing this one get started. This is important work, obviously, that we've been needing for quite some time. So good luck. We're behind you all the way. Okay, 10.1. This is adoption of revised California School Board Association board policies. 1113, 1312.3, and 1340, community relations. Dr. Phelps.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we ask for the adoption of the revised CSBA Board Policy Section 1313, District and School Websites, 1312.3, the Uniform Complaint Process, and 1340, Access to District Records. At the October 12, 2017 Board meeting, the Board voted to adopt CSBA Board Policy Section 1000 to 1700 with the removal of 1312.2 A, B, C, D, and E. CSBA has issued updates to 3 of the board policies within the approved section, and board approval is required to adopt the revised versions.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. On a motion by Dr. Patel, second by O'Connor Ratcliffe. Is there any discussion? State.
I had a question. So when we had discussed it last month, first of all, I guess I should preface my comments by saying I went through all the changes, and they're really well done. So thank you. I like the changes that were done. So it sounds like from what you're saying, some of them were required due to some legal updates. Because and that goes to my question. I think what I had noticed in the last batch was some issue with some committee that was not mandatory, and so did we just? Is basically the changes is we just struck that, we removed that language about this formation of the committee. I think it was to review the adoption of different educational materials, and then we just updated based on the new legal language. Do you remember? Does anyone remember last month when what I had noticed was there was some committee that was supposed to be, So we just wholesale removed that because that wasn't necessary, right. And then the changes that are highlighted are basically either our revisions just to make it cleaner plus the new statutory requirements.
Yes, that's correct.
And then the only one change that I noticed, we had sort of, this configuration of, A, C, and E being replaced by B, D, and F. One interesting change of note is that board member telephone numbers are prohibited from being posted. And under the old language, it said prohibited without board member consent. Just as for historical information, it may surprise people to know that historically board members' home addresses and phone numbers used to be posted on the district website as a matter of course. Then it was brought to our attention, maybe it wasn't so wise to have your home phone number, your home address, I'm sorry. So the addresses were removed, and of course, as has been highlighted in our previous discussions, we've had a lot of turnover in the last several election cycles, and so the only thing remaining there is my personal phone number, and I want it to remain there because I pride myself on the public having access to me as a public servant. So I don't want that prohibition in the language that says that board members' cell phones are not allowed to be on the website, because mine currently is, and it's always been there.
Could you please be specific about where that is in here?
Okay, let me look it up. Let's see. Attachment B, second page, very bottom. Actually, Yeah, let me take that back, because the next page says that board members is consent. Okay, so let me strike that and state that I give my written consent verbally, so.
So there's a motion on the floor. All right.
Second, no?
Yep, no, we have a second as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I didn't see you, Mr. Sellers. You're sitting behind Ms. Beatty's head. Thank you. All right, that passes unanimously. This takes us to 11.1, board member reports. We'll start down at the end with Ms. Myra. You've been quiet today.
It's been a taxing week, and I don't actually have a formal written report this time, but in the past month we've had Red Ribbon Week, No Place for Hate. We had the No Place for Hate conference. I think we also had Character Counts Week, or we had Character Counts activities. So I just like to say that it's really inspiring to see so many different events going on in the same month, because at our school, various schools and at varying levels, and it's really unique to see that each school is taking the event and interpreting it in their own way, and I guess doing different activities and hosting different, games or lunchtime activities for students. And it's nice to see that even though it's like the same cause, everybody has their own different interpretation, and it's important to everybody in a different way. And I think that's really great, and I'm excited to... Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, that's it for me.
I don't have a formal report. I just want to thank everyone who participated in the, I keep wanting to call it the redistricting process, but technically it's the districting process. We really did get a lot of participation, more than even Dr. Johnson expected, and he's seen a million of these things. And so I want to applaud the public for submitting the maps and the comments and coming here tonight and expressing their opinion. This is what representative government is about, and I really feel that we're all better for having participated in this process, and I'm grateful for everyone who gave us their 2 cents. Thank you.
Well, there's been a number of events in the last month, not the least of which was Jacko Smash, and we're so grateful to the organizers of Jacko Smash that fundraised this program for 2 very important, vital PowayUSD programs. One is the Abraxas transition program. We heard one of our student speakers representing them, as well as the Poway Unified Special Education Foundation, and they give many grants to special education. Jacko Smith, this year, was actually, the running of the operation was turned over to the Kiwanis. So we're very grateful to them for all of their hard work and organization. They had a great turnout, hundreds of people. They ran 1K, 5K, and 10K races. The 5K had 279 people. The 10K had 90 runners. And they just changed the finish. The finish line this time was, instead of being on that road off a Stowe, was at the baseball field. And so that was a total of 370 runners and participants to help fundraise for our important programs. And speaking of running, we also last weekend just finished up our final intramural cross-country meet. And the season ended on Friday, November 3rd. It starts in August. And this was a banner year, because this is the first year that all 7 of our middle schools, including D39, officially fielded teams. So we had some newcomers from Mesa Verde Middle School, D39C, and Meadowbrook. Runners had run as individuals in previous years, but not the schools. And this has been sort of the culmination of many years of hard work, starting with PTAs, parent PTAs, and foundations that have funded this program because 14 years ago our middle schools stopped offering intramural sports. And so this was, you know, a slow entree into trying to bring sports back at our middle schools. And as we see, you know, really for that social emotional development, this is really key. And so the 4 schools that are somewhat veterans in putting on, you know, in running these programs, they hosted the meets, and these take place on Fridays. And those 4 schools, I want to recognize Black Mountain Middle School, Oak Valley, Twin Peaks, and Bernardo Heights Middle School. So now some of the schools actually have the ACES programs that are underwriting the costs. But the programs are still run by all volunteers, and some of them are employees of the district, and then as well as parent volunteers. So it's definitely a program that I'd like to see continue, you know, to have increased support. And I know that there is strong support among our middle school principals to start bringing back more intramural sports. And so if this can be an entree to that, that would be great. And the last thing I just wanted to mention is the board. It wasn't on the agenda, but we recently received some grants for college and career readiness for our high schools, and the board got to see all the plans from all the different high schools. And there were some really neat plans. I particularly liked Del Norte and Mount Carmel had some neat plans, you know, getting that math tutor to, you know, go into the homes and the communities of you know, some of our underserved populations. And so they had some really creative ideas with not a lot of money. It was just, you know, maybe $13,000 and I liked, it's too bad Mr. Mason had to leave, because I thought he'd be really pleased to know that Mount Carmel was using some of those resources to keep their libraries open longer. So that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, those who are remaining once again. You know, I welcome this changing weather, but maybe not the return to daylight savings. I have noticed that the state legislature has tried multiple times to get rid of daylight savings, but it hasn't worked out for them. In the month of October, I wasn't able to visit as many school sites as I would have liked. It was a very busy time for my family. We do celebrate Diwali, so we had a lot of social events to attend, including a gathering at our own home to celebrate the holiday. The triumph of good over evil is the basic symbolism of Diwali. On top of that, my daughter is a gymnast. It was a very busy gymnastics season, but all worth it because she qualified to state. So we get to go to state. It's very exciting for us. But I did get to attend 3 school district-related activities, and I want to report back to you guys. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit Garden Road Elementary School. And I walked in, and I learned very quickly that this is a really, truly special place. The school is more than just a collection of classrooms and playgrounds. It's very clearly a community hub where the families really care about each other. They really foster inclusion. The principal, West, and her staff are working on a growth mindset for all these kids, and they set a very high academic standard. And that's impressive to see, considering that this school has just transitioned out of Title I. So it's very important for this school. I think it's pretty clear from what I saw there also that the district has some work to do in bringing equity to the students of Garden Road, and I hope we can work on that internally. And I churn that almost all the time in my head, so I'll be churning that for a while. Last week, I, along with Rancho Bernardo High School Gender Sexuality Alliance Club Advisor Paul Meserly, RBHS High School GSA President, student members and families of those students, fellow board member Michelle O'Connor Ratcliffe, we all went to the North County GSA Awards evening, and we were able to enjoy a very inclusive evening celebrating GSA student outreach, support, understanding, and friendship. It was pretty impressive. I didn't realize that there were, you know, this shows my areas of learning. I didn't realize that there were so many different areas that students identify in, and it was a good opportunity for me in my growth. And also our RBHS High School GSA Club was recognized at this event. And I see a lot of opportunities for our other clubs too at our other schools, so I hope we get better participation next year. On Tuesday, I was at the Palomar Council PTA meeting. And they also are having a really busy time right now. They have reflection entries pouring in, so there are even parents coming in to drop off entries and look at entries, as well as they're working on Adopt a Family, as the public speaker mentioned. With Northrop Grumman backing out this year, they really need a lot of support. These are genuinely families in need, and we do have them in Poway Unified. And please contact Palomar Council and see how you can support the community or our speaker directly. Those are the three main things I did this month supporting the school district. We have a lot to look forward to in the month of November, including the day after tomorrow, parent-teacher conferences, and the Thanksgiving break. So again, it'll probably be challenging for me to visit a few schools this month, but certainly I'll be back and doing my rounds in December. Thank you.
Thank you. Two very brief things. It's natural, understandable. We get so wrapped up in our little world here in the district, and let's just remember that as we enjoy a day off tomorrow, that it's Veterans Day, and we'd ask that take a moment to thank those who have served. I'll be calling my dad and my father-in-law, my stepdad, for their service and thanking them. And then secondly, I just want to shout out nice work to the staff and the counselors at both Sunset and Meadowbrook. I had an opportunity to attend both schools within days after their incidents over there, or those respective schools, and they did a great job of handling the situations there. So congratulations to them. Thank you.
So I had a really busy month. I was at Westview High School's homecoming pep rally along with Mr. Zain and Dr. Patel. We were invited, the whole board, to see the annual speed painting that our PowayUSD Teacher of the Year, Keith Opstead, does every year with his students. And they have 45 minutes to paint an enormous canvas. And they have a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior canvas. And this year they actually had one extra one that Mr. Opstead himself was working on with some student helpers. And it was amazing. Their theme was Odyssey of a Lifetime, and there was a lot of Star Wars in these speed paintings. It was very impressive. It was a pep rally, too, though, and that was really neat, too. I haven't seen anything like that since I was in high school, and maybe not even then. I loved the national anthem. They had a student playing it on the electric guitar, and he was absolutely incredible. I wish I got his name. He was amazing, though. Whew, I hope he plays again. Maybe graduation or something. This kid was really amazing. I visited Canyon View to meet up with new principal Jill Halsey, check out what the students are up to there, and get an idea of what the current special education practices are at the sites. All of my site visits recently have been based on that because of our FCMAT report and the work group that's just begun. And so that was a real focus of my visit to Canyon View. It was interesting. I liked what I saw. I come back with some ideas and thinking about how we can move in directions that our FCMAT report might suggest, and our least restrictive environments. It's good to know what we do now before we decide where we're going. I was at Garden Road also on a different day than Dr. Patel, but I checked out this super clever, super fun, all-you-can-read diner that they do there every year. And students and families are sitting at tables. It's set up like a 50s diner. Everyone's in costume. It was really neat. But students and their families order up books from menus that list literally every book that has to do with food from the school library. They order it from teachers going around. They take it to the kitchen, and the school librarian digs it up, gives it to the teacher, and they take it back, and they keep doing it over and over, all you can read. It is a really neat event. And again, the community at Garden Road really is phenomenal. It was really great. I was at D39C, met with representatives there from the Korea Foundation, who are helping to establish our first Korean language elective in the district. And I just wanted to offer kudos to Principal Erpelding and Principal Park for doing the legwork at the beginning to make that partnership happen. We couldn't do it without a lot of assistance, and they pulled that in for us, and I'm excited about that one. I also visited Sunset Hills shortly after the tragedy there, and new Principal Wilkin there too. I agree. They really did a very nice job there, managing the tragedy as best you can. It's a little different from when I was a student there, but a lot is the same. I loved seeing how the students are exemplifying the pillars of character there. they're encouraged and rewarded in so many ways by the staff, and Principal Wilton was actually doing that the morning that I got there, so I got to watch her in action with a lot of her students, and they just love that. I love how she encourages it, and you can see it everywhere. Again, wonderful community. Halloween celebrations at Adobe Bluffs, where my kids are, with the Fox 5, ooh, I'm going to get it wrong, Fox 5 morning crew there. They were filming. The kids were on TV. They were wild. They loved it, though. It is Adobe Bluffs' 25th year celebration, and that's what the film crew was there talking about. But you can't get away from the costume parade with the kindergartners. There's nothing cuter. I was at the GSA Awards with Dr. Patel and watching RB High get their awards. I also joined students from around our district: Black Mountain, Bernardo Heights, RB High, Del Norte, Westview, and Mount Carmel, and administrators, I think almost everyone up here, in fact, at the No Place for Hate conference in La Jolla. And we heard inspirational messages, calls to action, and our students got to do little breakouts, and I cannot wait to see what they put together to celebrate this year. They broke out into middle school groups and high school groups, so there's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of brainstorming that they were doing. I'm excited. I think last year we had 3 schools do it, and I based on the participation at the conference, I think we'll get them all to do something this year. I can't wait to see what it is. As I mentioned, I attended several special education centered events, and my visits were a lot about that too. The CAC meeting, which I already mentioned, Jackal Smash, I was there as well. My family did the 1K because my little kid is not going to do more than that, and whew, good. I don't have to either then. And that was a lot of fun. I can't wait to hear more on that at a future meeting. In the past, they've come back and told us how much money they raised and what they're going to, donating based on the community's help for our Special Education Foundation and Abraxas transition program. So excited about that. And last but not least, I was able to attend at least the first 4 hours of our special education work group that's considering a way forward for our district based on the recommendations in our FICMAT report. I was optimistic and nervous and optimistic, and when I got there, this is a group of really dedicated people. It's employees and parents in the room. I saw them working very hard to establish a vision for special education and to begin working on ways we can make it happen here. I look forward to hearing more from them. This was only the first meeting. I really look forward to seeing the input solicited and received from many more stakeholders than those who were just in the room. This is so important to our kids, and I expect to see something concrete very soon as far as the vision. I'm not talking about next week, but soon-ish, I suppose. A vision, an action plan, a timeline. I think that's what we all want to see. I'm happy to see the passion is there, so I'm remaining optimistic. The nerves are pretty gone. I'm optimistic again. I think this was a really great start for us, and that does it for me. 11.2 is the superintendent's report. Dr. Phelps.
Thank you, Madam President. Congratulations once again to all of our Team PUSD and our Everyday Hero honorees. I want to thank you for all of your commitment, your leadership on behalf of our district and our children. I'd like to say keep up the great work. Thank you. Thank you for your service. So speaking of excellence, every month our Studio 701 digital media interns create excellence in education videos that highlight how PUSD is achieving its mission of college and career readiness throughout the district. This month's piece focuses on PUSD's first ever partnership with the World Music Center at Highland Ranch Elementary School. So let's take a moment to watch the piece.
Before these students ever pick up a violin, trumpet, or saxophone,
1, 2, 3.
they're introduced to new types of instruments they may have never heard of from places they may have never been.
Music, the universal language, it's true. That brings everyone together, so I think it really helps them want to be part of our school community because we're bringing their world right here to our school.
Highland Ranch Elementary School is the first school in Poway Unified to partner with the Center for World Music to bring a multicultural approach to music education.
1, 2,
Students learn a wide variety of instruments and dance, ranging from Brazilian to Bavarian, African to Iranian.
And we learn and teach at the same time to appreciate and celebrate our diversity, what all of us have to offer to each other, and carry on and become a better and more diverse and complete society. You're going to start singing in Farsi. Yes!
I feel like each of the instruments are like special in their own way. Like the xylophone, you can do different like keys. The drums, you can do crazy drumming. The sitar has strings, so you can like control how loud it is.
At most schools in the Poway Unified School District, instrumental music starts in the 5th grade. But with this new program, students as young as kindergarten are getting hands-on experience.
So this gets them thinking about different instruments so they could use music in their future. All of us have a rhythm inside of us, and it's just tapping that rhythm.
Even though it's early in the program, students are already excited.
Try it one more time.
It's fun because you get to learn new musics, and you don't know some, but you might learn them.
Along with the fun comes meaningful learning.
It helps them with their organizational skills. It helps them with focusing.
It touches your heart because you know you're making a difference in their life.
For those of you who don't know, I have a special place in my heart for the music and the arts. I am a huge advocate and fan of the music and the arts. And so I love the global focus that the World Music Program is creating amongst our young students. I want to also highlight the efforts, as Trustee O'Connor Radcliffe brought up earlier, to introduce that we are introducing multilingual and cultural awareness opportunities to our students, which supports my long-awaited vision of wanting to create multilingual opportunities for all of our students K-12. And this will help our students to be more competitive in the global society. So earlier this month, we met with representatives from the Korean Education Center Foundation for Korean Language and Culture to bring Korean as an elective to D39. And with that, the Korean Center for Language and the Ministry of Education in Korea is giving a $30,000 grant to Poway Unified in order to provide these cultural opportunities for the students. And we're hoping for more in the future. So I want to thank the Principals Erpelding and Principal Park in helping us to make this possible. Also, Tierra Bonita Elementary School has once again been named Apple Distinguished School for their successful and innovative implementation of technology to transform students' learning. It's exciting to see that our young students growing up to be technologically savvy and future contributors in a high-demand STEM industry. Great job to Principal Mandy and her team. Their school will serve as a model for other schools that might want to do the same. Finally, I believe I'm coming to my near end of visiting every single school staff meeting, and I'm really excited about that. It's been a wonderful experience meeting the different staffs at all of our schools and being able to introduce myself, but also to be able to have an opportunity to hear their questions and concerns and address any issues firsthand. It's been a wonderful experience. I want to also say that as we honor our veterans tomorrow, that there is no school, and that it is also Mr. James Jimenez's 50th birthday. So I want to say happy birthday. Day after is my husband's birthday, so I want to say happy birthday to my husband. And I want to wish our staff and all of our students a happy 3-day weekend in our community. And I'm excited to spend my day off with my daughter. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks to everybody for that. And we are at 13.0. This is our adjournment. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held Thursday, December 14th, 2017, 6 p.m. right here. And with that, we are adjourned at 9:15.